Oh, hey, I'm Joe Mack, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're doing episode 4 of The Road to Gododdin, The End of the Road. We're talking Shadows Upon Time. Me and the gang are going to go over how we felt Christopher was able to give us the destination we felt we needed, how he executed this in a group format, and discuss how we felt the book was both written and if the ending was satisfying and accomplished what we felt we wanted, but also what Christopher set out to do. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm sure it'll be another long one.
Yo, fuck Edward.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello.
That is miserable. Literally, I get into here, and then Orion pops up and is like, "Am I the first one here?" And I'm like, "No, I was the first one here."
I'm sorry for stealing your thunder, Pheo. That's good tea.
Oh my god.
Doom, you got your cards? You open them up? We get a live Kraken packs
3
by Doombot.
Cassandras.
Yeah, I'm opening them right
Oh,
His
yes.
favorite?
Oh
now.
yes.
Queen. Oh, hey,
Arenada.
I got this one already.
Come on,
Tolio.
come on. Yeah! Good job!
There's the poll.
Pack number 2.
Oh, that's got
Yep, I remember this now.
The Patreon's so nice, I pay for it twice. Oh, God, we're recording. I haven't told anyone that. All right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Valka?
Oh,
Arenada,
another-
Another
Otiola.
one.
This is Christopher fucking with you.
Yeah.
$1 million.
One for trade, Red Company Discord. One for trade.
Jeez, dude, why does Christopher let you have 2 Cassandras? Yeah,
I think it's fair. I give him a lot of money. Yeah. Red Company Discord. I've got these 3 for trade as well.
The call.
Hit me up with
I
your
like
needs.
how Aranata has just become chump change at this point. Just like,
It's the most common
Worthless.
rare card, I think.
Outshined and overshadowed.
just like in real life.
Shut
Just
up.
like in real life.
Right.
It's crazy that it's been, what, November, 2 months.
2 months, yes.
I mean, it's the 16th, so really it's been 2 months since
2
I've
months,
seen you
yeah.
guys.
I've missed
And
you all
it-
so much.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
took me until, I would say, like the week of Christmas and the excitement of everything that comes with that to really kind of like return to normal.
Mhm.
I felt so not even drained, but being with so many people who had such a passion for the same thing, and being in George's home, and like there was a couple of times where everyone's like, "Are you okay, Joe?" Because I was just standing on the outside being like, there are 5 different circles of people in here right now, all talking about different books or different things to do with books, like earnestly. And it was just that blew my mind. There are people I know in real life who do like books, but there has never been like a central community in real life. You know what I mean? And that's what's been, it's been so great being able to do this with you guys and being able to take that a step further and break all the rules of the internet. Like I'm on record saying, but like meeting everyone in person and having that great time going to that gala was incredible. And I truly will do everything in my power to make it to whatever Ruocchio throws next. Like I'm not concerned with, and don't get me wrong, I love Sanderson, I love Brown, I love a ton of other authors and a ton of other series, but there's something about like the community that has built up and has taken the time to join the Discord versus just like the outliers. Like there's the Reddit, you know what I mean? But like everyone who's taken that next step has like the mindset is so shared, but not in a way where we will just accept everything that's going on in the stories. Like we're not just going to defend it because it's there. Like we still criticize stuff that's going on, just not to the extent maybe that those who have drinking the haterade have, or those who can't separate fiction from real life, regardless of
Good, I'm
the
gonna use that
comparisons or
now.
similarities that there might be. Yeah. So no, it's great to see you guys again and be here on the internet. I'm very happy that we're able to reach the end of the road together.
So one phenomenon that I have noticed that I think ties into this is with Sanderson and Brown, you get a lot of people who like that was their intro point into reading. And so they're like a Sanderson fan first, and they might like other stuff, but it's like Sanderson's what got them either into reading or back into reading. Same with Brown. With Ruocchio, we love books first, and then we love Ruocchio because we love books. And so you get people whose passions are like much wider than just Sun Eater in the community, and who are passionate about all kinds of crazy series that, you know, you go on the Discord and you'll get people recommending all the hidden gems, right? You know, not just, you know, Book of the New Sun, Wars of Light and Shadow. What's the one Martian was promoting the other day? He was like, I'll give you $20 if you read this series. KJ Parker, right? KJ Parker.
Yep.
Yeah, you just get all kinds of great recommendations on there. Now, it turns out, you know, Janny Wirtz, bit of a Sun Eater fangirl. I think that's really funny.
It's been awesome to see her reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The circles are so small, and I love it.
Yeah.
There was another lady on TikTok. Man, I wish I had this lined up. I've been posting her videos in the Discord as she's gone through the books.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like her name's Dorothy, and it's been wonderful to hear her thoughts as that goes on as well. So it's just, it's a great time seeing everyone experience everything. I want to go round table here real quick. Not go too deep. We don't got to do the whole 7, but we'll start with you, Orion, just with the order that we're in. Where did Shadows Upon Time land after reflection? It's been out, you know, for 2 months now.
Mm-hmm.
After reflection and absorbing everything, where does Shadows land on your order of enjoyment in Sun Eater 1 through 7? With 1 being your favorite.
With 1 being my favorite. That's a really hard question, because out of everyone here and out of pretty much everyone else, I was one of the first people to read Shadows. And so I finished it back in June of 2025. So I've had quite a long time to mull this over. I think Shadows is number 1 on my list because it is the Sun Eater story. You know, it is the story that Hadrian told us about at the beginning of book 1. It's the story of him getting to eat the sun. I think the rest of the series is an incredible lead up to that one instant. And it's fantastic how Hadrian ends up getting there. But I think Shadows Upon Time does what it sets out to do, what Christopher set out to do in the very first book. He promises us that a son is going to get eaten, and Hadrian is going to tell us how he does it. And both of those things are explained and shown in spectacular fashion. So in that regard, I think Shadows is the story that really completes the circle for me. It's the Ouroboros has begun eating its tail. You know, there's no broken sections. It is one full, complete story now. And as Christopher said the other day, we can finally, you know, say goodbye to the old boy being Hadrian. And that instant, like, just the thought of saying goodbye to him hurts me in a way that I don't quite fully understand, because the series means so much to me. But Shadows does really, I think, land at the very top for me, because it is the Sun Eater book. It is the book where the thing happens.
Yeah, very well said. And I had that feeling when I finished, like not even, a little bit before the actual closing of the back cover, but when I hit what I knew was going to be the last time that for the first time I was reading There Are Endings, reader.
Oh my God.
There was just like a profound emptiness. It was weird to be so attached to something like this, you know what I mean? And having read 5 Empire, Howling, Demon, Kingdoms. Having read 5 of 7 twice, like leading up, like having done that reread up through this, and experiencing it the second time, it is. There was something that, like, it did feel weird at the end. LongSunMalrubius. Where is Shadows for you?
It's either 1 or 2. I haven't settled. Disquiet Gods is either 1 or 2. I've been thinking about it a lot, right? Because I read these books first as fans, and then I start going through doing all the critical analysis. Now doing, even though we're just up to Howling Dark, doing the editing. So, I'm not just breezing through them. I'm not just going through them and then just going, oh well, whatever my emotions are at the end or how I feel. I do read a bit more intensely, I think, than maybe your average reader picking it up. Shadows Upon Time is a bold book. It makes a lot of creative decisions that I think Christopher did on purpose just to spite people.
Yes.
Which is a very interesting way to write a book. There are things in this book that I thought were going to be super controversial that are not at all. And there are things in this book that I thought people were going to love that are proving to be some of the most divisive points about it. But I think as a book, and having gone through today and looked at all the criticisms online, what people are saying about it, I don't agree with any of the criticisms about this book. Maybe one we'll talk about later. But I think this book is awesome. I think it closes the story thematically, philosophically. It doesn't give us everything, and it was never going to. And I know there's some people who are disappointed about that. They wanted a very different ending. You go back and just the opening lines of Empire of Silence tell you where you're going to end up. And then I know a lot of people either read that and breeze through it, or they read it and they're like, well, that's not really where we're going to end up. And then we end up exactly where he said. And so, he delivered on the promise. Mm-hmm. And, so either number 1 or number 2 for me, either the best book or one of the best books in the series. We will sing its praises tonight in lots of different ways. I'm excited to talk about it. I think I'll be able to change your mind on it, Joe, by the end of the stream. So that's my challenge to myself.
Ooh.
Very fair, very fair. Pheo, your thoughts?
This is such a hard question. I have been struggling with this because I feel like now, with the conclusion of Sun Eater, my entire ordering of the whole series has just kind of been thrown out of whack. But for now, I'll say that Shadows Upon Time is my favorite, because I feel the most emotionally attached to that book out of all of them. And I think that's what's really messing with my ranking. So I'll say Shadows Upon Time, but man, Kingdoms of Death, man, I still love that book so much. But yeah, Mike Mal said, Shadows Upon Time was just the perfect ending, I think, for the series and for what Christopher Ruocchio was trying to accomplish with the series. I love all the themes, all the religious aspects I really, really liked. I also don't understand a lot of the criticism going around. I'm very excited to talk about that. But yeah, so far it's my favorite, I think, as I'm sitting right now.
That's fair. I understand there's a lot of Celine in this book, so I understand why you might lean that way.
Between Celine and the aura farming, it's just peak.
Doom. Where's Shadows for you, buddy?
Probably somewhere in the middle.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever read a book I love more than Howling Dark. There's just something about it that feels very Star Wars to me. It's like almost nostalgic, even though it's not as old as Star Wars or anything, but it makes me, and I didn't read it as a kid, but it evokes feelings of childhood for me. So for me, that's my favorite one for sure. Shadows being in the middle is more so, I understand some of the criticisms for Shadows Upon Time. There's definitely a few things that I think people like the things that people are saying. I don't think to the extent that they're complaining, if that makes sense. I think they're minor gripes that some people are blowing up out of proportion that I think like doesn't diminish my enjoyment of the book. I like it a lot. I like the ending, especially, except for one part. Everyone knows what part I hated about it. And that's why I said I liked it a lot, with caveats being that the other things, the kind of things that people have been going through in the Discord and like dissecting and finding hints of, and everyone's got weird headcanons now that I agree with 100%. Like Mal posted something earlier that I was 100%, like that's exactly where my head was. And I think we even talked about it earlier, me and him before. And there's just a lot of that book that makes so much sense when like we go through the reread and there's all this little like foreshadowing that gets dropped, and you think like there are things that Christopher has, like lack of a better term, retconned, where he had to change some things for continuity errors and stuff. And then there are things that are in other books that he purposely does not change that don't make sense when you get to the ending. And that just opens up the possibility for so much more, being that I don't think it's the last time we'll see Hadrian or the Sun Eater universe with Hadrian's influence still imprinted on it. For the hype moments, Demon in White's up there, I think just above Shadows. But I got to go Howling Dark, Kingdoms of Death, Disquiet Gods. Yeah, and then Demon in White, Shadows, Empire, and then Ashes. Actually, no. Ashes has that one moment I also love, so I'm going to flip those two. Like, I think most of these books are 5 out of 5, with like the tiniest little things putting them ahead, which are my own personal preference, obviously. Like every scene in Howling Dark for me is 10 out of 10. 100%. I want to see that shit somewhere, live action or not live action, animation. I hate live action. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Shadows Upon Time. I've read it twice since we got it. I read it once when we got the e-arcs, and I read it again when I got the physical book. And there's definitely a lot of stuff that I didn't pick up on the first time that looking at it through a different lens, I'm starting to pick up more and more, but there are still parts of it that didn't really click with me. And there's a little bit of the criticisms I see reading through it, like stuff about Cassandra and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense. And I would agree with Doom that I would put Shadows somewhere in the middle. And also, like you said,
that it is a mid book,
right? Yeah, it's not that it's lesser so much that my personal enjoyment also happens to be for Howling Dark for almost the exact same reasons. Is it's on almost like a certain frequency for me, where it hits those like, you know, late 80s, early 90s movie vibes that I'm going for, and the way that the beats hit in Howling Dark, and the way that it expands the universe, and the way that Christopher takes something that's been so popular in recent times, being like that cyberpunk aesthetic, and turns it into something that's not cool and all that. You know, there are instances of that in Empire of Silence that let us know that that's not good in this world. But when you finally get to see it for the first time, and Karn Sagara being the behemoth that he is, just sitting on a chair is just incredible.
Imperious.
He's right behind you.
Yeah, right. That's where he deserves.
No, he's over there.
where he
there.
deserves to be.
Oh yeah, he's right here.
Oh my god. There's 3 of them.
The prince right there.
Let's
We are all
I-
Karn
go ahead.
Saga.
Oh god.
I think that a good way kind of maybe to jump into each of these bits, maybe, because everyone's mentioned the criticisms and wanting to discuss that or agreeing with it, disagreeing with it, is, excuse me, maybe because the beginning of the book is something that gets mentioned a lot. Maybe we start off by talking about what the criticisms of the beginning of Shadows is and how we feel about that, and if it was the right choice, or maybe whether or not we agree with those criticisms. The criticism being the multiple point of view retelling of the stories of what happened aboard the Demiurge. I do think that the "thes" should be in the book regardless. And Hadrian has told us time and time again that he does not have that perfect memory, that he does not have the scholastic memory that a true scholiast would, but he recalls stories told to him and tells them from the teller's perspective. It's like a storyception section of this book, and it was off-putting for people online. There's a lot of people who didn't like the pacing, who didn't like the break from the only Hadrian POV that the mainline books have gone on. And before I continue to word vomit, let's start in reverse. Doom, what do you think about the criticisms of how this book started, and what are your thoughts on it?
I think that's another, like, I don't think that's an issue. I thought the different POVs was kind of awesome. Felt like a movie, where you're getting the same event told through, what's that? I'm blanking on the name, but Akira Kurosawa has a movie like that. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure it's Kurosawa, where it's the same event told through different people's eyes, and it changes the perception of how the event of one person's telling versus the other. But I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I know what
where
movie
like
you're
two
talking
people are
about.
basically, okay.
Yeah.
I'll look it
So
up real quick.
in my mind, all it is just seeing the different people and their perception of all the different characters, right? Like, and I think in a couple of them, different events happen, and I don't know. It was just interesting to see how, like, one of the Urchtani sees the event compared to like how Edward talks and about it, and I don't know. I found it interesting, and I thought it was more so of like maybe like a writing exercise to test out multiple POVs, And I think if it's the same thing with when people jump from one book series to another. I'm holding a pen for some reason. It's like when people who read Red Rising come over to Sun Eater, they're like almost confused by the fact that it's single POV when they first start, and they're like, oh, I'm used to, or when Pierce Brown did the switch, sorry, like he goes from single POV to multiple POV, and people were criticizing that as well. And like, I've read the Red Rising series, and I didn't find it that jarring, to be honest with you. It was just one of those things. It's different. You don't expect it. It happens, and I don't think it takes away from anything that happens in the beginning of the book. I do think it could have been shortened a little bit, maybe like a little bit of a tighter focus for the stories. But other than that, I thought it was fantastic.
Pheo, what are your thoughts?
Oh, can I just say the movie is Rashomon by Kurosawa. That's the one with the like.
Thank you,
same event.
Rashomon. I kept thinking Rand for some reason.
I was thinking Rand too, but I knew that was the wrong answer.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure. Sorry, keep going. I gotta look something up.
I didn't bother me either. Mostly because Ruocchio's done this before, both in Howling Dark and in Ashes of Man, just in a much shorter length of time. Like, the Ashes of Man one is the only one that's like longer, and that was Valka telling the story of everything that happened while Hadrian was imprisoned on Doombot. And so it didn't like jar me in that way. I thought it was really cool because each different POV gives you another side of what was happening during that battle, and I thought that was a really cool way to do it. I guess my only nitpick about that section was with Cassandra's POV, because at the very end of it, there's that moment where she's like getting extremely personal and like calling out to her mother and to her father and talking about the trial that she's not supposed to talk about. And she's saying all this in front of Olerin at this table. And I was like, would she really be doing all this in a like formal meeting with the head of the Jadians? Like, that was the only point where like I was taken out of it. I was like, is she really saying this word for word? But that can be like waved away by Hadrian, like dramatizing what she might have said, because obviously he doesn't precisely remember. He said before he doesn't precisely remember everything, so maybe that's just him amping up the drama. Very well could be, knowing him. But yeah, that was like the only moment of it that kind of just jarred me out of it. Otherwise, I really liked that section. I thought it was great.
Mal, to you.
So it didn't bother me. It's definitely jarring to read, especially going through the books that are so Hadrian focused, and then you start this one and you're getting a bunch of wider perspectives. I think I would maybe defend is the wrong word, but I think the purpose it serves narratively is two reasons. One is to show the effect of learning that the Chantry is essentially the biggest hypocritical organization to ever exist in anything ever. They make use of machines. They have advanced technology that's way beyond anything else anyone in the Stolen Empire has. And you get a couple different multiple perspectives on it. You even get some like alien perspectives on it, which is interesting to read. The other thing about it, and I made this point when we started these live streams, and I did it for a reason, so I could bring it up again here, is that these books are in-universe scripture, right? Like, the adherents of Hadrian's faith have these books, and they debate them in-universe like we do out-of-universe. And so incorporating all of the different POVs in terms of like, it reminded me of certain biblical stories, right? Or certain books of the Bible where you do get jumping around from like character to character to character during a battle. Kings has some of this, Kings, Judges, right? Sort of the stories of the kingdom of Israel. You get this type of thing going on. And I, just from someone who is religious and has read the Bible, I do enjoy when the Bible, is trying to tell a story, right? And I enjoy it here as well, getting all the stories on it. I would agree with Doom that we probably could have cut one or two of these and not lost anything. Steven Erikson does like the reverse of this at the start of one of the Malazan books, where he'd been criticized for only having too many POVs. So he's like, fine, I'm going to open up a book and I'm just going to write 200 pages from a single character's perspective. But I just checked in the book. The multiple POV stuff stops at chapter 15, which is page 136. And, the first couple chapters, I think up to chapter 4, are from Hadrian's POV as well. So what's 15 minus 4? 9. There are like 9 chapters in this 91 chapter book from other POVs. My point there being like, you might not like it, but, people are acting like it's a third of the book, and it's not. It's just a little thing we do at the start. And then we move on, and it ultimately leads to one of the biggest aura farming moments in the entire series, Hadrian's arrival on Forum, which is one of those badass chapters I think I've ever read. So it is what it is. But yeah.
Orion, what are your thoughts?
Oof. I'm pretty on board with everything everyone else has said here tonight. When I was reading these chapters for the first time, it was kind of an all gas no brakes moment where I was just like, oh my gosh, he did it. The son of a bitch did it. Mostly because people online were criticizing Christopher for, and I quote, not being able to write anything out of a first person point of view. So Christopher was like, hold this, and proceeded to prove them wrong, that he could do it and do it in spectacular fashion. I loved all of those points of view. I love being able to see the cultural significance of the Irktani. I loved seeing, surprisingly enough, I loved Captain Goshel's POV. That was amazing to me. Just being, I love Captain Goshel. I think he's a great character. People just think he's some kind of throwaway guy. I appreciate the role he has to play in Hadrian's story. I think he's fantastic. Dude didn't want to be there. He's there regardless. And when faced with a challenge, Hadrian's enemies just think that Goshel's just going to roll over. But the dude has an iron backbone, and he's got his own set of principles, and being able to see these impossible scenarios play out before him. He's able to make a decision standing on his own 2 feet, and I highly respect him for that. But I think that the POV that I enjoyed the most, and this is going to surprise no one, is the Cielsen point of view, the Ramanthanu chapter. That was one of my favorite things in the whole book, mostly because fans have been wanting to get inside the mindset of a Cielsen since the books have started. They just want to know what's going on in their heads. And Christopher always joked that, I can't do that. It's too complex. The only way I'd be able to tell a Cielsen story is through comics. But he's done it twice now. He's done it through The Economist, which, if anyone hasn't read that short story, do so. It is so good. And through this chapter, through Ramanthanu's point of view. And I think it's amazing. It just goes to show how dynamic their hierarchies are, and how it kind of, perspectives and genders and roles can move fluidly and dynamically from person to person in a moment. And it seems confusing to us, but to them, it's normal. It must be what it's like all the time. And I think it takes enormous grit to be able to think up something like that and put it on paper. And we might not be able to understand it, but it's understandable to the reader, to Hadrian. It makes the depth of the story so much more, it's richer. It's all the richer because it's not just Hadrian's point of view. And it's at this point, Hadrian's kind of admitting to the reader, this isn't just my story. This is, I have touched other people, and this is my opportunity to not only explain myself to the audience, because at this point they're very sus about this whole scenario, but it's also my opportunity to let these people have their own voices in my stories. So I don't know what everyone else is getting on about. Like Mal said, it's like 9 chapters of a 90 chapter book. So it don't bother me in the slightest. I loved the beginning of this book.
Awesome. I think that I kind of get it, like from a pacing standpoint. And I also get it from, if you go really hard into like the meta of the way that these stories are written, I think it as a tool feeds the narrative that we cannot trust everything that Hadrian says. Right? Like as a literary element, he's, as we stated in the beginning, right? Like, he doesn't have a perfect memory. So how, like, what, and it might have been for me the thing that made me, like, it wasn't immersion breaking, but it was like I had to stop and be like, how does this guy remember what everyone else said? Like, how they phrased everything here, like the amount of paraphrasing or just downright making it up has to be off the charts, because you're talking however far in the future that he's writing these tomes, right? And however long it took him to get here, whether that was 7 years, 10 years, 7 weeks. I know he makes reference many a time about having to start over as well. I do think that regardless of the way that it's told to us, or the framework, if you will, that the content of the chantry is how I can, if I were to have a problem, that is the thing that I say, well, I don't even care because this is juicy and I love it. So like getting that information, because I think it's been established at this point that my favorite faction are the Extrasolarians. Everything that they got
and they
going
shocked
on.
and surprised no one.
Yeah. Everything they have going on tickles my fancy. And to know that the chantry is worse than the Extrasolarians. They are the Extrasolarians, but they like lied about it, so they're less cool. And you know, it's I'm remiss to make comparisons to anything that feeds the copycat narrative, but the extent to which the chantry uses AI, advance their technology, lives on planet Earth, and goes against literally everything that's ever come out of one of their mouths, goes above and beyond anything that the Bene Gesserit ever did, right? Because they did like save an AI to help with their like the DNA stuff that they were doing to be able to create the Kwisatz Haderach. And nor do I view the Bene Gesserit as like a religion based thing. They're just like a faction of cool bitches. But the like the absolute establishment of like this empire encompassing religion that everyone's been following for so long to be based on such a blatant lie, and the implication that has on Hadrian's outlook towards the chantry, because he's writing this from the future. So when he started writing this, he had that information. And you look at all of his viewpoints and opinions from Empire of Silence moving forward, it makes me question how much of that was colored through the lens of knowing the ultimate information. Did Hadrian always hate the chantry and not want to be a part of it truly when he was 15 or 20 or, you know, child Hadrian in Empire of Silence? Or is he telling us he had those feelings because he knows about their heretical nature? They're all demoniacs and they don't even believe the shit that they're saying. So I think that that's super interesting and really adds to everything going on. I've already compared this series as like the space opera, sci-fi, Lord of the Rings, as far as like depth and living world and everything that's going on, because you have what you're getting on the page. And a lot of the stuff that we get on the page has a history, right? There's language, religion, there are factions. There's so much that happened before we even get to this point. And there are so many things going on in the background, and Christopher does a good way of showing us some of that, but not like divulging all the information, just like carrot on a sticking a lot of the stuff. And it makes you think about so much of it. So that really blew my mind. I think that the beginning could have been shorter. I think that organically it makes sense, right? That they're telling Aloran like what happened and why. And if that were to truly happen, this is exactly how it would go. Everybody would have their time, because you wouldn't want to paraphrase this information because of the epic nature. Like, you're about to blow everyone's mind at the end of the story you're telling. The chantry used AI, drop it at their feet. So you don't want to just be like, oh, well, like Cassandra did this and the Irktani were doing that and Ramatana was over there doing this. You're like, no, you have to tell your part because they need to hear it firsthand. But we're getting it secondhand. So I think that I do question whether the final book in the series was the right time for Christopher to experiment, if that's the right word, as far as to show off his skills in multiple POV versus in a novella or in another piece. So I can see the criticism from that angle, especially when the series has blown up to the point that it has. So I believe a lot of people and their outspoken nature and exposure to the series has been on a much shorter life cycle. So they've probably been reading a lot faster versus the amount of time that we've all invested and the patience that we've done. And we're just kind of like, we see more in it and we expect more, and we see more Christopher, I think, in these books than the general public. So I can not necessarily agree with the criticism, but I can sympathize with it is all. Very long-winded version for that, I guess. Yeah, what did you guys think about the Chantry and having that big bad be introduced here? You know what I mean? Like, just... Well, Orion, take it away.
Hypocrites. Oh, to be honest, at this point, I wasn't surprised, but it still caught me off guard. It was, as a reader who lives now in the year of our Lord 2026, it's I can suspend my disbelief, but to someone living in the future, living in Hadrian's time, that shit would have rocked their world. And honestly, we've been living, part of our lives in Hadrian's time, so we have the same, we can suspend our disbelief that, yeah, of course the Chantry are hypocrites and they're using AI, but we've also spent enough time with Hadrian and his friends to be rocked when this news, is presented to us, when it lands at our feet. So, it was kind of a double whammy for me, but I wasn't surprised in the least. Man, fuck Duro and Kedron. They're the worst. Man, I enjoy how
I hated Duro way more than Kedron. Sorry.
Oh.
I thought Duro was to continue to use those excuses on why he was attacking Hadrian in the face of being presented with the truth is the worst kind of person.
Oh, the
worst.
hypocrisy. Oh, the hypocrisy. Yeah. That just made my blood boil. No, it's okay. You're just fine. That just made my blood boil. Kedron, like, Duro wasn't necessarily like a direct agent of the Chantry. He was just another puppet. He was just being pulled by their strings. Kedron was, a champion, one of the Chantry's greatest warriors. And when he spat his beliefs back into the face of Hadrian, when he says, that zealot William ruined everything, that shit hurt. That shit hurt. Like, wow. It really doesn't mean anything to you. Like, their control over the hearts and the faith of the citizens of the Solid Empire means nothing to them. It was a slap in the face and it hurt. And I think both of them got exactly what they deserved. They deserve.
Does anyone else have anything to?
Oh, that sounds harsh, but no, I think they deserved what they got, and that's me.
Does anyone else have anything to add?
Civil.
One of the most interesting things about this, Doom actually brought this up a couple months ago. It's been in my head ever since. There's some talk about, is this a chosen one story? Is it because Hadrian isn't really prophesied to come? And Doom, a couple months ago, pointed out that Hadrian actually does fulfill the Son of Earth prophecies. He gives Earth back to the galaxy green and whole and livable. He reveals that to everyone, not just the Solons, but all the other factions out there that they're doing this. And so Hadrian being interpreted differently by different in-world religions is something that's really interesting to me, right? Like the Catholics, the Scythothorians, the Solon chantry, the Jadians can all work him into their religious framework. And I think that is something that is really interesting, and he kind of all fits into like all of their stories about various different things. But getting him to so clearly fulfill this Son of Earth prophecy that he's essentially been denying the whole time, right? Like Demon in White is probably the one that focuses on this the most. At the end of the battle, or during the battle, at the end of that book, there's a soldier named Rena who's like, the soldiers are saying, you're going to reveal yourself today as Son of Earth and like, take the throne and stuff. And Hadrian's like, no, not doing any of that. And then, of course, he dodges the Death Star laser and like goes down in history, right? But here he actually does fulfill all the prophecies. And the Chantry's hatred of him comes from the fact that they can't control him. He's a rogue player on the board. They're in this Cold War with William, and finding out the Chantry use AI, and then later discovering William suspected strongly, explains so many of the actions in the book, like why we have things like the Martian Executor Knights, why Hapsis exists as an organization. William, his whole reign, has been trying to weaken the Chantry's hold, while at the same time appearing to be this very like pious man. There's a part in Ashes of Man, right, where they're talking in the little ruined chapel, and William makes a comment about how at the start of Kingdoms of Death, in a Chantry chapel, he asked Hadrian to perform some magic, and Hadrian is like, not going to do that. And William compliments him. He's like, oh, you played that really well right there. And then in this book, Hadrian realizes that in that moment, William was also playing a double game. He's bowing piously before all of the Chantry gods, which we learn in Disquiet Gods are watchers. When we go full schizo mode later tonight, I'll have a lot to say about that. He realizes that just his respect, grows for William as this one man who's shaped humanity in a positive direction for over 1,000 years, fighting the secret war. And in many, many ways, this book does set Hadrian up as like William's true successor. Eventually, literally, right? But just in the way that they both fight the Chantry using their own powers. I mean, the Chantry killed Hadrian last book. And I think a lot of people, when they read that, they're like, yes, the Chantry's awful. They suck. They have a point about AI because they hate it. And we know that's bad. And they see Hadrian as a threat just because of politics. And then in this book, you're like, oh, actually, they're just the worst. As Orion said, they're the worst. They're terrible hypocrites. But yeah, the religious aspect of all this stuff is very fascinating to me. So.
And I just want to throw in there, because this reveal was one of my favorite ones, that the Chantry basically has had plans for hundreds, thousands of years to manufacture their own God Emperor reborn. And Hadrian just comes and absolutely destroys that entire plan of theirs that they've been building for centuries at this point. I love that reveal. That was crazy.
But it's wild. It's wild that their conquest of Earth took literally, 20,000 years. It took 20,000 years for their fist to close over Earth, and it's amazing the long game they actually played.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, like finding out the Chantry did what they did and what they're lying about and what they believe in is like finding out every conspiracy theory you think about the government is real.
Yeah.
It's like it's one of those things in the book that I looked at it as like challenging what the government tells you before, like what the government shows you. You know what I mean? Don't do as I do, do as I say, kind of deal. And then also just again, you know, the hypocrisy of their religion, talking about how like, oh, we want the Son of Earth, and you get him, and you're like, that guy's a demon because we didn't make him
Right.
the Son of Earth. To both of your points,
That's
right?
not our
So
guy.
like, trying to make a chosen one and then the chosen one appearing is crazy. I do disagree. I do think William's Cold War was. I don't know what he was doing to weaken the Chantry, but it seems like the entire time they basically had his number. Like, Hadrian is the one who finally lays it down, and I don't see the framework that everyone else sees, that William did stuff. William just seemed to be hiding in a corner, talking to his two friends, being like, this is what we're going to do. And the Chantry's just standing there like, okay. Like, but that's just my own personal bias there.
Well, he did have
So you would
the
Doom-
genetic keys, right? Where
Yeah,
the Chantry like couldn't access any of that without William, and that's why they didn't kill him.
So that was way before him, though. Like, that whole setup of the Hermetic keys and how the control the Palatine class was way before William. So, like, I don't give him points for that. I give him points for being like, oh, this is something I could use as a tool of political power, but, like, he didn't do it. Like, he wasn't the one who put it into practice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That
He
was
didn't,
a
like,
different
create a
emperor,
system.
empress.
But he did
Exactly.
keep
Who
it from
implemented
them.
that system. True.
He did it.
But again,
Keep it
that's
away.
like someone gives you something and be like, hey, man, keep that safe. And you're like, okay, got it. And you don't credit the janitor with keeping the school safe. You know, I just called William a janitor. I'm sorry. I'm getting I'm gonna piss people off.
So you would say that your opinion of William has not changed throughout Shadows of Empire.
Absolutely not.
Bruh. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely not. I still view him as a bad father and an incompetent ruler. Like, now that we're going into the whole book here,
Yeah.
the fact that
Oh my lord.
he continues to say that he was fighting the Chantry the whole time, yet he knows that Alexander is also one of their puppets, but continuously keeps him close, but also doesn't tell him it makes no sense. Either you pick the dude and you tell him everything to get him to flip to your side, or you disown him, get him as far away from the seat of power, distance yourself from that snake piece of shit as far as you can go, and bring someone else in, or have some sort of backup plan for the fact that Alexander is not a good ruler. He would never make a good ruler. There's no optics there. You have 1,000 kids. Go dethaw one, have some stupid one come out for a little bit and figure it out. Or move your plan up with Hadrian. There were so many times where he could have been like, all right, fuck it. We know the Chantry's pulling shit. Let's do something here. And in my opinion, William is a fantastically written character as a buffoon.
But Doom, tell us how you really feel.
I don't like William.
Okay.
I don't understand why people like him so much.
Okay.
Again, fantastically written character where he pissed me off every time he spoke.
It's good. It's good to hear the support and that you have the information you need to back it up, because a lot of the things that I've been seeing online is that William is like people's favorite emperor. And I think
that's totally fine. Again,
Yeah.
I have no judgment against people for having their favorite characters, and people who like William, and for all the reasons you state, like people state, I personally don't see it that way, and I see it from the different perspective, where I'm like, you say that you knew this was happening, you say that you had plans in motion, that you were doing all these things, yet what does he have to show for it? Instead,
you're
he
not wrong.
propped up a son that he knew was against him, basically, who was, for lack of a better term, evil, stupid, moronic, power hungry, you know what I mean? And just chose to continue that and being like, my gentle parenting style will eventually fix my stupid man child. Like, what? And then they talk about Selene, and Hadrian's like, to be fair, Hadrian seems a little misogynistic when he's like, Selene would not make a good empress because she's not tough like her dad. Like, not every emperor, empress is exactly the same ruler. Everyone rules in a different style. How is Selene a perfect partner for Hadrian to be the emperor, but you don't see her doing anything? Like, it seems a little bit like, oh, my vapid daughter. And it's like, Selene has proven time and time again she's the furthest thing from vapid. And it's just like, how do you see your daughter doing stuff constantly and being like, not good enough? Alexander, you midget, get over here, dude. Like, come on. Like, he's such a, like, you love to hate Alexander. I don't know anyone that truly likes Alexander as a character in terms of like, oh no, he should have been the emperor. But William constantly shows that he says one thing and is doing something else. Makes no sense to me.
I think the Selene Alexander argument is one of the clearest examples that you can portray, especially taking in the way that Selene stepped up in Disquiet Gods, right? Like when she did deal with Kaelin Herendities and she did make a deal, like she had the wit to understand what was going on. And the problem is that I think Selene's a great written character and I love her. And I am 100% on board with all the theories about Selene being around still when Hadrian's writing this and everything going on there. But whether or not she just wasn't, I don't even know how to like phrase it correctly because I'm trying, like the way the books are written. She's like unrealized potential, the biggest unrealized potential in the book, right? Like she is so much more than just arm candy for Hadrian, and it's made apparent through her actions and through her words. But she is also head over heels for this guy the whole time, and I think that this is almost a pretty good segue into Cassandra because there's a lot of complaint about Abba from Cassandra and the words or lack thereof that we receive from her in this book and the ones previous. And I think that what I'll say before I let you guys take it away is it is a symptom of the hyper meta Hadrian point of view, right? That is all we get because that is most of the extent of her conversation or interaction with her father during these moments, her extremely suicidal, hyper depressed, all powerful, undying father. So, Pheo, why don't you take this one? Cause you were last for the last one. Cassandra, the criticisms that she was poorly written, that she just said Abba way too much, and whether you agree, disagree, or and how you think she was utilized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sorry, I'm still processing. Cassandra, I still think a lot of the problem stems from Hadrian's point of view with regards to Cassandra because of the way he views his daughter. And I do believe that he omits some things regarding her in the story to protect her post Shadows Upon Time. I fully believe that theory. But I see where people are coming from with that because she is basically like right by Hadrian's side every step of the way, and we don't really see her without Hadrian. But we do like find out little snippets, like she's had this romance with Edward going on in the background this whole time, and like she's got her own stuff going on behind the scenes, and we don't see any of it ever. Which, sure, maybe Christopher could have added a little bit more to fix that. I don't know. I mean, we got a lot more from Cassandra in this book than we have in the past, because that was a criticism as well with Disquiet Gods. But I thought it was handled much better in this book. We did get more of her and we get the whole thing with like her arm. She doesn't want to get it replaced because of her own ideas about the quiet, and we get more of her perspective on like Volca and Hadrian's relationship with Celine and stuff like that. So we get more from her in this book, much more than in the previous books. But sure, there could have been more, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Orion, Doom, or Mal, do you have anything to add to the Cassandra criticisms?
I don't think they hold much water. I think that's just readers being readers. To Hadrian's credit, Cassandra is his baby, and she's always going to be his baby. And maybe he is projecting a bit of his fatherly instinct onto her just a little bit. As we've discussed time and time again, Hadrian isn't 100% being truthful in any of these retellings. Maybe a little bit of that has rubbed off on the way that Cassandra is portrayed, but I don't think that makes her less of a character. I don't think that makes her a poorly written character, and I don't think that makes her a weak character. Because he mentions in the first book that he watched a Maeskoloi fight off a crowd of Martian guards, and by God, we got to see that in this book. And that just proves the power of one Ninth Circle Maeskoloi, and that they are not to be trifled with at all, in the slightest. So Cassandra can hold her own. And I think anyone who says that she is a wasted element in the story, they can just go sit in the corner and stew, because I don't think they were reading the same book as I was. I love Cassandra. I would take a bullet for that girl, and she would allow it.
So,
go ahead, Chris.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I do sort of agree that we get Abba maybe a couple too many times. You know, maybe we could reduce it by 10 or so. And my perspective on this is different because I have read certain post book 7 things, not Life, that give a little bit more clarification on this. But I'm surprised at the criticism that Cassandra has no agency, because I actually thought she had a lot more agency this book than last book. And like the first chapter sets up Cassandra's journey for not only this book, but like the Sun Eater series going forward. Like this book opens up with Hadrian trying to teach her how to see the universe the way he does. And she can't do it. This is now her journey, right? It's a spiritual journey of trying to become more like her father, and her trying to get to that point where she can do this. And at the end of the book, and I know I'm jumping way ahead here, her and Lynn go off to essentially resist Alexander. And the post book 7 things we have seen indicate that is happening, right? Like they are, you know, Bassander's going around kind of like St. Paul, giving all these preachings and talks. Cassandra is off, you know, doing more of the action thing, right? In part because Bassander is a very old man at this point. But like Cassandra's journey here is to, you know, become and do what her father could not, essentially topple Alexander and the corrupt, you know. So we're calling it the Chantry. You know, I believe in making proper distinctions. At the top of the Chantry is the Synod. Certain Synod members are part of an organization called the Order, which created the Chantry as a means of control. It is the Order that controls Earth and has all these high-ranking Chantry Sentinel members as part of them, where we even get a couple times where Hadrian is like ranting like an old man at the Chantry, calling them all kinds of names, which are very fun to read. And, you know, he says some of the Chantry members were just staring at him blankly, like, what are you even talking about? And other ones are like, oh crap, we're being exposed. So it's not, you know, not every Chantry member, but always the Chantry, right? The
Chantry, it always was.
Right, exactly. But, you know, Cassandra's has this very set up journey from the start of this book. She doesn't complete it in this book. And I think that's why a lot of people are frustrated. But, this book, after those 9 chapters of other POVs, is probably the most Hadrian focused of the entire series. It is so much about Hadrian and his thoughts, his emotions, his responses to things. Even the fight scenes have gone from being these sort of like large scale epic battles to this interior struggle for the soul of Hadrian. And if you're not picking up on that, or even if you are, you're going to read a lot of this and say it's just repetition for no point. But it's not no point. This is how Hadrian is being attacked. And then we kind of get these little glimpses that these other characters really are having their own lives, like Cassandra and Edouard's romance, which, look, strongly hinted, right? They go off to shoot in the desert at the start of Disquiet Gods, and Hadrian is like grumpy dad when they get back late. He's like, I thought you were going to be back, 1700. It's 1830. What were you doing out there, right? And like, there's a point, I think, in Disquiet Gods where it says like Edouard crossed his arms like Hadrian, so Hadrian uncrosses his own.
I don't want to look like that punk.
There's some big dad son-in-law energy there, right? So this was not a surprise when Cassandra and Edouard start holding hands at the end of the book. But yeah, I do agree. She says Abba a lot, and repetition in general in a book for no reason is bad, and we probably could have cut some of that down. I do not agree that Cassandra has no agency, that she has no arc, and that she's a useless character. I think her and Lynn are being set up to be our main characters of the next series. Wow, look at yeah. Yeah, this is why Doom and I
100% agree.
That's the emphatic nod.
Exactly, dude. So, no, 100% agree. I think everything you said hit it right on the head. I think Cassandra being set up with Lynn basically going to be the vehicle, I think, of how the next story starts. So I think there'll be a bridge novelette or whatever that'll be about Lynn propagating the story of Hadrian, and then like the actual book itself, like series, will be like Cassandra and her war to vindicate her father, who everyone views as this monster. Another thing that while you were talking popped into my head was, imagine that this pretender to the throne that everyone thinks Hadrian is, that Alexander propagates, and Cassandra comes out with her army, and they're all the red-haired Danuans who look like the emperor's family. Now imagine the visual to a plebeian who is watching seeing a fight, and every the beginning members of Cassandra's military will be red-haired, emerald eyes. And I just want to point out also, where would the perfect place to hide Selene be, if not among the Danuans?
Hell yeah.
If he does have a child, and for some reason, think about where the perfect place to hide them would be. Just saying, I've been thinking, it just hit me now, and I'm like, oh my God, Selene could be right there, and everyone would be like, hey, that Danuan looks different than the rest, but I can't tell what it is,
Doom.
Also, just quick, that's Cassandra, Seraph of Battle. I got 2 of them. Marjorie, this one's for you. I owe her one. But again, I think the criticism for Cassandra at first made sense in Disquiet Gods. I do think she was a little underutilized. I thought she could have done more. I will say the criticism about her not wanting her arm makes no sense to me. Like, it makes perfect sense that you see that your father has these, for lack of a better term, mystical abilities, and you have to believe everything because you've seen it firsthand, right? You've seen his regeneration. You've seen what he can do. So you for me, Cassandra is like this crisis of faith thing where she doesn't necessarily believe, she knows. And those are 2 different things, right? She knows that Hadrian has access to some higher power, and she thinks that when she truly believes, she will be restored, right? So that's why she refuses the arm. In my brain, that was always like a crazy amount of world building and character growth, where she's like, once I am worthy, once I truly believe, I will hear the music and my arm will come back to me. You know what I mean? And I think that's a cool thing to set up for the next, if Cassandra is right, which me and LongSunMal agree with, right? Like, if she truly is the next protagonist of the Sun Eater sequel series, it would make a lot of sense for that to be interjected now, so that when it shows up later, you're not like, oh, where is this coming from? You're like, it's right there. When she talks about not wanting that arm back yet because she doesn't view herself as worthy, right? The other thing is a Ninth Circle Jaddy. Like her fights in this book, I think, make her one of the more competent fighters in the entire series. Like with one arm, she's doing crazy things that even Hadrian's like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? And Hadrian is a dude who is obviously one of the better fighters with powers or without, you know, because Robles don't mess around. You know what I mean?
Alberton.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think the criticisms about her dialogue are, you know, have some merit. I think the criticisms of her being like a wasted space character are just kind of like tacked on to the aforementioned point of, you know, the ABBA over and over and over. And then they do kind of have the same dialogue a couple of times that I think probably could have been removed, where they have the whole like, I'm coming with you, and it's just like, no, and then yes, and you're like, okay, come on, get through that part. So there's a few moments like that I'm like, that could have been a little bit shorter, like shortened out or cut out completely and put in some other lines, I guess. But for the most part, I don't agree with most of the criticisms about Cassandra herself going from Disquiet Gods to Shadows Upon Time.
Doom, I'm sorry. I have one sec, Joe Mac.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I love your big brain and the stuff that comes out of it. Oh my god.
My brain is small and smooth.
That's why it's so impressive when you have these big ideas.
Yeah. That's why most people are like, wow, that guy can form a sentence.
Wow, what
Incredible.
an insightful insight. Like, just like, no.
That's why when Mal talks sometimes and he's like, Doom actually, and I'm like, oh man, you're wrinkling my brain. What are you talking about? What did I say?
Man. No, that was a treat to kind of like watch you just like realize this in real time. That was delightful.
And I also agree, I wouldn't want to look like Edward either. If he crossed his arms, I'm uncrossing my shit. I don't care. I hate that nerd.
No.
Fake glasses and all.
Pot's calling the kettle black, son.
I'm a nerd, but I swear, Edward does nothing. Hadrian, I don't think we should do that. Shut up, nerd. Get in the corner. Read a book. We going. Moving on. Every time. He's always like he's not the voice of reason, because half the time his ideas are stupid. Not anything to do with him being a Catholic and him trying to talk to Hadrian about that. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Edward being like, I don't know, Hadrian, and Hadrian being like, shut up.
I'm just reminded of that meme. That I can't remember who made it, but they were like, Edward just sits on the ship all the time. Doesn't do anything. It's like, Edward, get back on the Dimir.
Yeah. What are you doing here? This is a relevant battle. Get upstairs. Go be somewhere else.
Is
he is
Edward
good friends with
the
Orphan,
Meg
though, at
of the
least.
series
Oh my
For me.
god.
from Family Guy?
He's just there.
Shut up, Meg.
Like, genuinely. Yeah. Every time he spoke, I'm like, dude, shut up. It's that other meme from The Righteous Gemstone. He's like, quit your worthless chiming, nerd. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Baby Billy's talking about? Okay. If you haven't seen it, the memes, The Righteous Gemstone's pretty funny. But Baby Billy is played by, oh my god, Walton Goggins, same guy who plays the ghoul in the Fallout
Walter
series.
Goggins. And
Yeah.
he's in all the
Isn't it
Walmart
Walton?
commercials.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, it's Walton.
Walton? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's Walton Goggins. I'm pretty sure. I love him. And that was my first, the first time I saw him and recognized who he was. And I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Shut your worthless chiming, nerd. I ain't got time for your ramblings or whatever he says. That shit's so funny. But all right, I've digressed enough. Hello. Sun Eater, Hadrian, Edward sucks.
Okay.
On to the next.
Do you think that the Cassandra thing is a symptom of people
Of Edward sucking? Yes.
people
Dude, come
getting what's it called? It's like, oh man. But basically, Christopher hemmed himself in by making it like a hyper meta Hadrian story. So there's just we can't get the Edward Cassandra information because Hadrian's not there.
Yeah.
Right. There's things that
He doesn't want to give us the information.
Yeah, and also probably he doesn't want to relive it, just like some other things. But like there's a word, I feel like it starts with the D. I can't think of it, but the people are like not sick of, but worn down.
Oh, like burnt out?
Yeah, like with the hyper meta Hadrian first person POV, and the symptoms of that are getting the ABBAs, because that's all Hadrian remembers, recalls, or is there for. Or with Celine, the only stuff besides that one time he had that interstellar moment where he saw Celine in her like private moment praying. He's only there for when she's like fawning over him, and trying to appeal to him.
He could be making it up too. He could be like, yeah, Celine was totally just like, oh no, Hadrian. In reality, she's probably like, oh, we're so fucked. She's like, oh no, we're so fucked. And he's just like, I can't say that. My memoir would be terrible if I read that.
The reviews would be awful.
Yeah.
She must be infatuated with me. Do you ever see the TikTok, the guy with the glasses, and he's like inside their head, he's got the hands and talks about authors when they're thinking of writing the man. He did.
I have seen that guy. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. This child will have a spear. Yes.
And she will be infatuated with him.
I think it's called. I don't remember what it's called, but I think his name is TD Oral. I've seen him on Instagram, and I thought he was hilarious. And then I found out he has his own book series, and it's the next book I'm going to read after I finish this terrible one I'm reading now.
Bringing it back in though. So Cassandra, the criticisms of Cassandra, and then I guess chronologically in the book, after we leave that beginning portion, we segued into Cassandra. We talked about Celine. We had the chance to reveal, and then Mal made mention of it earlier, but Hadrian makes his way back to Forum. He convinces Aloran, right? He's like, hey, here's all the information. Here's the AI. Here's Ship. I need you to escort me. We got to go back. Do we have anything to say about going back to Forum?
I will say just one thing, because we have not even like crossed the 1/4 marker for this book yet, so we gotta keep it rolling. But I just think that it was great that Hadrian rolls up onto Forum and just throws back every award they've ever given him right back into the court's face. It's just like, here, you can have all the medals of honor and the medals of merit. You can even have the grass crown. I don't give a shit. That was a ballsy move. I think it was so well done. I also just appreciate the little moment where he and Samek like saw each other from across the way, and he's like, I lived, bitch. And she's just freaking out going, oh no, we messed up. So that was...
She's like, oh, he isn't.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, it's him. But I just enjoyed Hadrian, for one, not giving a shit anymore, and two, doing so in such spectacular fashion.
What I have to say about it is just, the aura farming in this book is out of control. Hadrian destroys a planet later on, and it's not even like top 10 Hadrian moments in the entire book. In the opening chapters, when we're getting the multi-POV thing, we do get some stuff from Hadrian's perspective, and I think he's talking with Duro, and it says, I ended the transmission with the swish of my cape. It's out of control. It's absurd. It's just awesome. And chapter 20, Demon in White, is one of the most cathartic things I've ever read, because after seeing Hadrian try to carefully politically maneuver for centuries across these books, he's just done. He's just had it. He spends the rest of the book like just spilling state secrets to everyone in earshot and just telling them.
No filter anymore.
People say that like one of the biggest, they're like, Hadrian, he's so preachy in this book. I'm like, he is old and mad and just yelling at everyone.
He does not have time for this shit.
He does not have time for this. He is so tired of the politics and the political maneuvering. And like one thing I love about this book is Hadrian is still very flawed. I was a little interested to see where we were going to go after we had the post-resurrection Hadrian in book 6, where he was starting to just like view the universe differently, right? There's a time where like right after he comes back, he's like, I stepped on the head of my Cielson softly because I didn't want to I realized that like asserting my dominance over them in the Cielson way was maybe not the best idea. And I really love that Ruocchio was able to create a heroic but flawed character. I think a lot of the criticisms of this book come from people expecting, I'm just going to say it, like a Sanderson hero. And like Sanderson heroes have flaws, but that they have to overcome, but they tend not to permanently damage them in the story. Whereas like Hadrian starts flawed, remains flawed, gets a lot better, but is still very flawed. Ends this book, final page, very flawed.
He still tries to find his own way, right, to the end. Even after everything, even after meeting the absolute and learning that everything that, the entirety of the truth, he still tries to end the fight without blowing up the sun. Even though he said he would do it,
and like
he still tries to. Yeah.
The way I've described this book to someone who was like really struggling understanding it, I was like, Hadrian's journey in this book is learning not just to do the will of the absolute, but to do it in the absolute's way, because he's trying to do that will in his own way, and it just does not work. And I think if you don't get that, a lot of the end of the book is going to be very frustrating for you. You're going to be like, why isn't Hadrian taking over the galaxy, asserting his will? I mean, Hadrian tells you a couple times, he's like, I was not told, to go take Earth and conquer everything. But yeah, that's the journey. I like to, just shortly summarize all the narrative arcs, because I think it really helps people understand what Ruocchio is trying to do.
I think the word I was looking for earlier was fatigue. If people are like fatigued by the
you said it started with a D
thing. Yeah, I know. I was wrong.
He said he thought it started with a D.
I think I was stuck with like distressed or depressed or something. But no, yeah, it's another flaw of Hadrian's, which I guess we'll jump off that to here, is he literally did meet a god, the absolute, whatever, however you want to phrase it, within this universe, right? He met this being, and he has experiences that, just like Cassandra, back to what you said about she doesn't believe she knows about her father, right? I don't. Now it is Hadrian coded, the way that he treats everybody who talks about their own religions. But even and I know this is another criticism, and this is one that I do agree with, is Hadrian's like shoo on everyone else's gods, even though this one's called the absolute, and not being able to realize that like it's all the same. Like when they're like, your God is the absolute, your God is the absolute. You guys all had pieces of the story, you had pieces of the puzzle, but like I met the guy. But just to constantly put the other, like his brothers in arms, to constantly put them down in those conversations when they were trying to relate to him, right? In their way. And for him just to every single time be like, it's not your God. Will you stop with that? It's my God, only mine. It's very Hadrian coded. Very Hadrian coded. I understand Hadrian as a character doing it, right? And that is one of the flaws that like stick with him through this, that he doesn't become holier than thou, right? He does start preaching, but he just kind of like instead of trying to bring anyone up to speed in certain points, he just says, no, you're wrong, and then moves on. So I think that he is a character, not Christopher writing it. I think that Hadrian as a character could have handled those situations a lot better. And me as somebody reading him tell me those things was aggravating. That was something that I was aggravated with how Hadrian acted. And I think that that's important for me to say. Is I'm not saying that I don't think it wasn't written well. It was just like that was a part of Hadrian's character that I dislike, and that has kind of like stuck through a lot of the story. Do you guys have any opinion on that, or should we move to the next point?
Agreed.
So the only thing I have to say is that a lot of people who read this book who are religious or have faith have said that Hadrian in this book reminds them of every recent convert they've ever met. There is a tendency of recent converts to act in this way of having this new faith, being so sure of it, and then kind of like maybe not even purposely, but inadvertently putting people down around you and just being really annoying and obnoxious. It was something I was talking with some of the we have like Catholics, Protestants, Mormons all in the Discord, and we were all kind of talking about, oh yeah, we've seen this in our own communities. We have some Eastern Orthodox as well, but like I was talking with Larktype and Halkiov about it, who are Mormon and Protestant respectively, and we're all like, oh yeah, we've kind of seen this behavior in circles. I mean, maybe not to this extent, right? This is a book, you can exaggerate things a little bit, but it definitely struck us as realistic, and especially Hadrian's perspective on everything, going from sort of agnostic to a believer, and by book 6 really having that moment of conversion of faith. The gentleman I was speaking about earlier, basically was telling me what made him start really liking the book, aside from me and Larktype explaining it to him, was realizing that this is not a story about humanity fighting an alien race. This is a story of Hadrian's conversion.
I would disagree slightly, only in the sense that I feel Hadrian is not a full believer until literally the very end. I think that Hadrian is also going through the same thing Cassandra was going through, where he's having like a I know, so therefore I believe thing, where he's like, I think his hand wave, this is again my interpretation. I think the hand waving of other people's religion, while very Hadrian coded, is also his way of like, oh, I definitely believe, because I don't believe in everything else. There's no, this is the truth. So if for him it's that he knows that the absolute is a 100% real comparative to other religion in the series, and he's hand waving it off as like, I guess in his own way, trying to show how devout he is and how much of a believer he is, but then he has the constant like, I'm going to do this my way thing that ends up not working every time, because he refuses to do it the absolute's way. And I think the hand waving is just him being like, no, it can't be real because I know, not that he believes. And I think until the very end, where he has to do it the absolute way, is when he truly converts to the faith of the absolute. And then he finally is like, I've given everything I had to give to truly be there. And I think that's, so not that I disagree with you, but I think the conversion happens all the way at the end, which is probably what you were alluding to begin with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we, the next big thing is we learn that the emperor has space cancer, super space cancer, and it has progressed quite far. He is now an amorphous blob who is contained, not entirely, but I jest. But he's not doing great, and he is in fugue, and they have hooked up electrodes to his brain to like kind of get him to communicate. And it's a closed loop system. They make a point later to inform us of that, and so it is protected against like AI intrusion or anything of the sort. And finally, after so many books where we thought it was going to happen, Hadrian is elevated to Auctor, because in his death throes, Emperor William, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have Danu first.
Yeah.
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 You fucked
Danu.
up, boys.
Yeah. Well, I guess no. I guess that was So Hadrian. No, there is the fight on Danu. That's probably the most significant part.
Yeah, that
Right? Like,
that just happened.
So I just have a couple points about it. One, seeing Sirianni now as more of this metaphysical being rather than a physical, the fight across hyperspace, realizing you can go in hyperspace from one point in physical reality to another. But really, all that is like high level, really cool stuff. But really what I wanted to focus on was that Danu is the home planet of Switch, also known, its name's William. And the parallels here, I think, are really interesting because in Howling Dark, Hadrian has a vision of a body hung from a crooked tree, which I thought was his body. Turns out, and this is getting a little ahead, that's not true. It's actually William that he saw there, Switch's future. But Hadrian ends up hanged anyway. So, like, they share the same fate in a way, William, Switch, and Hadrian. And also, Hadrian couldn't save Switch. He couldn't, he cut him off, cast him into the outer darkness away from everyone. However, he does save Switch's people. And as a great, great man once said, it's like poetry, it rhymes. I love the parallels there, just the connections Ruocchio is constantly making with his characters and his stories and his plots and things not exactly repeating, but sort of echoing. And after the Danu attack, while Hadrian's on the planet, we get our first Watcher space battle, which I was curious how that was going to go. And turns out it's just an angel throwing starships around. So that's cool. But then we get her attacking people. And so all throughout Disquiet Gods, Yushar is trying to get Hadrian, let me in, let me in, let me in, let me in. And we finally see what happens when people decide to let her in. Now, the point here that I haven't seen a lot of people make, and they comment on this in the book, is that the Cielsen are people, or maybe race is a better word for what I'm trying to express here, shaped by the Watchers. And when they see humans infected by the Watchers, a couple characters comment they were acting like Cielsen, right? So you see the Watcher influence. The Watcher's great victory of the Cielsen was getting them to act like that without directly possessing them.
You know what it reminded me of when the people got infected with Ushara was, have you ever seen the TV show Firefly?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very Reaver coded.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. But yeah, absolutely. Very, very much the Reavers, right? To face themselves, eat people, crush people, do other things to people. You made some very good points, and I should not have skipped Danu. I should not have skipped it. We also get explained, it is also the first time we're explained how, not the first time, but they go into a little more depth on how Voidmaker works. Because Hadrian's I'm going to kill myself. And, or I don't think I can say that on YouTube. But he's like, I'm going to use Voidmaker on myself. And he, the targeting and the charge up time, and that it erases all matter. And later, it gets destroyed, jumping ahead a little bit. But what's so cool is if you've read Three Body Problem or seen it on Netflix, they unfold and fold a proton, and it's the whole machine is what you see is however big the object is. It's a book, so I don't actually know what it looks like, but it's the giant object. But then as it gets destroyed, there were pieces folded into another dimension that start coming into our dimension as it explodes. And I thought that was super cool, and just another example of Christopher's creativity and explains how really the matter was destroyed. It's one of those one of like the fantastical elements of the science aspect of these stories, right? The fight that he has with Ushara.
The weapons hit on another.
Yeah.
The weapons hit on another real quick point we didn't even mention, which is that we also, in addition to learning the Chantry worship AI, that there was a civil war between the machines. That the machines basically, some wanted to continue and split. Some were pro-human, some were anti-human. The pro-human ones were contacted, essentially became this way because they found the quiet, and they're the ones that built these weapons for mankind's war against the Watchers.
Yeah, the huge reveals that like they never tried to really wipe us out. That it was everything they did was just like the ultimatum version of how to protect humans, right? Like they kept us alive forever. They shared our flesh to get smarter, but it wasn't ever with for certain AI, it wasn't with like malicious intent, right? It was just from a robot's perspective. This accomplishes the task, so this is how I'll handle it. Yeah, I think talking about the use of Voidmaker and trying to erase, he was trying to bait Sirianni, Ushara, and Mutinar to Dana by having him finally be seen when he's outside of the Demiurge. They'd be able to see him. And he's semi-successful in doing that, which is a nicer way of saying he fails. But it's very interesting how Christopher is able to write a story that maintains the urgency and maintains a sense of stress or wonderment on how Hadrian's going to accomplish certain things when he literally has like super mega ultra weapons. That it's not just like click button win, click button win, click button win. He's still trying to mitigate loss. He's still trying to do things his way, and there are tons of the Archontic weapons that we don't even know what they do. Even having I'm sure one of you will know the name, but the one he uses the most, the high matter ball.
Albedo.
Albedo. So even using albedo, like albedo gets caught and destroyed, right? Like they're not infallible because the Watchers are above and beyond, right? So like all that stuff is an example of Christopher's ability to like I think Mal, I think you said this in one of the previous videos that there are some writers would struggle to write the Watchers in a way that works. Right. And I think that not only does he do that, but the way to deal with them is handled very well, where it's not just easy solution. Right. And it's plausible and it's believable in the context of the story. It's not like far-fetched or anything. Is there anything else about Danu? Because I tried to inappropriately skip it.
You fool.
I have two things.
Please.
One, talking about Switch actually reminded me, because we get like a bit of conclusion to not just Switch, but for Genon as well. Not a lot, but we get to see her grandson, who is hilariously named after Hadrian. His name is Adriano.
Talk about awkward.
And we hear that I believe she's still alive, and she's a grandmother now. So we get a little bit of a conclusion for her, as well as Switch we've already talked about. And the second thing I wanted to mention was obviously Celine. We pick up Celine on Gododdin. She's with us now. She's awesome.
She's stowed away on Gododdin, let's be fair.
Right, we didn't bring her with us. She came along anyway. But so she's there. And then there's that whole scene with her on the ship and what happens with her during Ushara's whole attack, because Ushara goes after Celine, but Selene is protected supposedly by some sort of good watcher, possibly the Quiet. I'm not sure. Malrubius, was it ever? I don't know if it's confirmed if it was a watcher or if it was the Quiet itself appearing to
Selene
her.
says
But
it's the mother of Earth, right?
it appears
pretty heavily Virgin Mary coded, right?
Right.
The Virgin Mary is explicitly said to resemble Mother Earth in Demon in White, and so it would make sense that a Solon would view it this way. I and Father Gabriel both look at it this way. Orion has a different opinion, so it doesn't have to be the Virgin Mary. We don't have to be getting that explicit. But I think the point that she was protected by a positive supernatural force is very important.
Yes. And for what purpose? By the end of the story, I'd argue we still don't fully know.
Yeah.
I don't think that question's ever really answered, and I think it has something to do with something going forward that we don't know about yet.
Well,
we'll get to that in
the
schizo
Quiet
territory.
The Quiet can take any form, right? So I always viewed it as just the Quiet appearing to Selene as something that she would believe.
And this figure had green eyes. So
right. I always thought it was just the Quiet instead of appearing as Gibson. Right, was just
it was like a comforting figure to
for
Selene. Just like Gibson was for Hadrian. That was my assumption when I first read it. Yeah.
There's one. There's one bit on Danu that sticks out to me. That whole sequence is absolutely incredible. Just Hadrian and Siriani's fight on the planet's surface, Ushara's attack, and them running through the halls of the Demiurge. What ends up happening to Hadrian and Cassandra, which is just absolutely heartbreaking. But there's one bit when Hadrian is on the surface fighting Siriani, and Siriani is talking down to Hadrian saying, this is ultimately why you will lose. This is why the Cielsen will triumph. This is why Utanash will be destroyed and the Cielsen will be free and the universe will be scraped clean once and for all. And Hadrian says something that, as someone who is very fond of the natural sciences, who is fond of paleontology and anthropology and archaeology, I just found this, this was one of the most triumphant lines I think Christopher has written in the entire series. And Hadrian says, you don't understand who you've been fighting. You don't understand anything about humans. Do you know where we came from? We evolved to run our prey to death. And that was whoa, okay, Hadrian, just getting me right in the feels. But he's right. It is in our nature to throw ourselves at tasks until the tasks become accomplished. Him just telling Siriani, you fucked with the wrong species. Sorry, that was people gloss over that little bit, and I just think it needs to be celebrated more often. But I hyper focus on really weird shit, so we can move on now.
And then he gets his old sword back.
Yeah! Yes, Siriani. Cool. Siriani was holding on to his own sword from the switcheroo that happened near the end of Kingdoms of Death, and so he has been keeping it as a trophy of sorts. But Hadrian's I'll be taking that back, thank you. So the fact that he has his original sword and his Jodi and Simurgh sword.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then just something interesting, because that sword that was his, that he got from Siriani, is also the sword he always passes to Ranthanu in the battle, which he does 2 or 3 times, which is just a cool little parallel there.
It's really cool. It's just here, buddy, you've earned it. Unlike your former boss, who's a dick.
And Otiolo.
Yes.
Araneta.
I guess it's also a pretty big point, because at the end of the Danu sequence, as you alluded to, Cassandra and Hadrian have a dangerous hug.
Yeah. It's putting it mildly.
That's a lovely euphemism.
Second dangerous hug of the series.
Bad touch, bad touch, bad touch.
I'm trying to think of what to. I mean, it's a great point in the book. It's another like wow, impactful moment. I don't know if there's any like discussion point to be had about it in general.
I mean, other than what happens to Cassandra.
Yeah,
after that,
she does. I'm trying to like recall what's going on. She does like see the dark.
She dies for 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
She sees Velka.
She sees the howling dark.
That if anyone
does anyone want to talk? Does anyone want to speak on it?
If anyone says that they read that sequence, chapter 41, I believe, and they didn't like tear up, they didn't get emotional, they are not your friends. They can just leave. They were not reading the same book as we were.
I sobbed so hard.
I was inconsolable. Like, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you got, like, really emotional. Come on.
I never get that way.
We go.
Reading books.
That moment.
Valka's got, like, 4 lines in this book, and they all crushed me emotionally. I was like, how does he do it?
I can't look at mice anymore without feeling emotional.
No, this, God, the fact that, we actually see, because, spoiler alert, if you haven't read Howling Dark yet, Hadrian dies and he gets sent to the aforementioned Howling Dark, what he refers to as the space in between, the place between life and death. And he visits it very briefly because he is chivied back to life by another Hadrian. Fascinating. But I think because Cassandra was clinically dead for those 15 minutes, and she did, I think she like passed through the proper Howling Dark, respectively, and she was able to see that other side. The image of, you know, the afterlife, as it were, as not a place of gloom or sorrow or hellfire, as it were, and not even as a place of pearly gates, but as a place where, you know, your dead will come to greet you. What more could we ask about an afterlife? Why do I love Sun Eater so much?
Oh man, I know. Svalka was not alone.
Yeah, like the fact that she wasn't alone, I think was, you know, that she was still watching over Hadrian and their daughter, and all of Hadrian's people were there, and
and she, just the fact that Svalka, like, from what she said to Cassandra, it's like she's been watching this whole time. Like, she knows
that's
Cassandra.
What gets me. It's just like, I've never held you, but that is my child. That is my baby.
And the part that always gets me is when she comes back and she's like, Mom said you were right. Like, that's not what she said. That's not what she said. She said he's not wrong. And that little like detail where like she wouldn't know that, and Hadrian immediately like getting misty-eyed because he's like, he knows what Valka would say, you know?
Yeah.
One of those, that's the little nuances that Christopher puts in his writing that I'm always just like, this dude is so big brain.
Yeah.
Right? And I am so small brain because I only pick it up after I see it 15 times.
Right. And it's also that Hadrian's not wrong because he was right that the Howling Dark exists. You're not alone there.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah.
It's hard to move from this back to space cancer now.
It's just William. That's my rat laugh. I apologize. No one should ever see that. Cut that.
Yeah. They make it back. Everyone's like, Hadrian, you failed.
Oh wait, but we also have the Cielson child.
Darathama.
A little later.
So much.
Not during
Isn't
Danon.
that?
No.
Well, but it's the trip between, right? Going back to Gododdin.
No, because Cassandra's around for that, yeah?
Yeah.
She's like in the back to tank for this.
I'm going to solve this one.
I'll find it.
No.
The child is born on the way going
it's a
back.
race. Go, who's faster at reading? Everyone, look! Go. I can see the concentration.
Oh my god, I opened up to it.
Chapter 46.
Page 401. I literally one page open, page
Legend.
401.
Joe Mack with the mystical hand.
It's
I can
it's
do
on
it.
that journey.
Chapter
When
44.
they're going back to
Nativity.
Gododdin.
Yes, you're totally
That's
right,
insane.
Pheo. Yeah.
It's like the middle of the book.
Pheo going up for the
Yeah.
dunk. Orion
Yes.
and Mal trying to block it. And then there's Joe Mack with the magnificent alley-oop.
Yep.
Dunk.
That's
Here
crazy.
comes Joe back with a steel chair.
I didn't even. It's just terrible.
That's a foul in
I
basketball, by
tried
the
to
way.
skip over this whole section.
Joe
We
Mack
gotta
is just
talk
Yes.
about
blithely.
I am also traumatized by Danu, so
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah,
Cat's on the move.
that was a hard sequence to read.
Yeah.
It was intense for sure. Like, from the moment they hit the ground. Well, we get to see the dark light work. I guess if we want to talk about more of the weapons, but the dark light cannon goes off. They hit the ground, and from there, it's so intense because you go right to the Syria. You meet the Switch people, Siriani fight, space battle, Ushara, the hug of death, and then the crazy pregnancy. I mean, really, when did they have the time?
Being a parthenogenetic species, I think,
there's a lot of
Yeah.
time in space travel, right? Like we early on in the series, it's mentioned that sometimes people don't go into fugue for like a year or two, and when they're going 30, 40, 50 light years, but and I'm pretty sure everyone kind of left the Cielson by themselves for very obvious reasons, many obvious reasons. But the birth is it Darathamu? How do you say it?
Darathama.
Darathama. Yeah,
Mhm.
Darathama. We'll just call it Dara. It's supposed to invoke Abraham and Isaac, right? Like the very biblical story of Abraham and Isaac. And because this gets brought up as a wider criticism of the series, I've been, slowly pointing this out as we go through these videos. Cielson is a title. It's the race doesn't know what they're called. Hadrian asked Ramanthanu at one point, and it's just like no one knows anymore. Cielson is a title. It's something the species became. So the Quiet has ordered the death of all Cielson, but not all members of, we'll call them the Pale Race, are Cielson. Like 3 of them. And of course, we're told there's some scouts that survive. There's the Ada who did not go to Siriani's thing and went north. So it's not like all of the Cielson are gone, just most of the ones under Siriani. But like Dara represents something totally new. And I've said before, this is not Star Trek. I think the Cielson in their original forms, peace with them is probably not easy, right? They were cultivated and picked by the Watchers for a specific reason. And one of the things we learn in this book is each Watcher has a specific role. Ushara was to guide the stars. Maudanar was evolution. And throughout the series, there's all these similarities pointed out between humanity and the Cielson. And I was sort of reading too much into these and thinking that maybe it was indicating like a legitimate genetic shared heritage. I think this book puts the kibosh on that pretty tightly. It's not that humans and Cielson look the same because they have a genetic ancestor. They look the same because the Watchers were involved in the shaping of each race. On purpose.
That's what I was going to say when we brought up.
What is the Chantry god of evolution? Bloody-handed evolution?
Maudanar.
Just saying.
Bloody hand.
That
Just
term
saying.
actually, that term comes from, I believe it was Robert E. Howard. I could be wrong. It was either Robert E. Howard or H.P. Lovecraft who first coined that phrase. But yeah, we know where Christopher got it.
We'll talk more in the schizo section.
God.
Doom, you were going to say?
When we brought up, when you originally brought up Dara, I was going to say he's technically not a Cielson, but
Yeah.
Mal covered it.
Yeah.
Space cancer?
We can finally talk about space cancer. We're sorry for
Space
distracting you for like 40 minutes.
No, you're not distracting. I just it's there's a lot of it blends, and I didn't forget about those. I just forgot about when they took place. Right, like I remember Danu. I just slip of the mind. So not a distraction at all. And very important stuff. But space cancer also important. Emperor's got it. We don't know how bad he is, but we do get to go meet him. We've had some conversations outside of Gododdin. Alexander is on planet side with some Chantry members, and they are working their magic to convince the population that Hadrian is not good. Hadrian finally gets a chance to meet with the Emperor after some threats and blowing up a planet.
Moon?
A moon. It was uninhabited, but there was like some satellite stations. I believe there was like 14 deaths or a very small number, but deaths nonetheless.
It's like a couple dozen.
To show the power that he had and that he's not afraid, and you can't really make me do anything because I can kill you all whenever I want. We find out
I think he literally calls it.
Chantry.
I think he literally calls it my fully operational battle station before he does.
The Emperor steps in before like things get real bad because Alexander and the Chantry are trying to board the Demiurge. Obviously, they want to get another AI on it and take it over. And Hadrian's like, "You do that, I'm blowing it all up." And the Emperor comes out and says, "Stop being a bunch of idiots. Come talk to me." So they all head over to the Emperor's ship, which has a cool name.
Aurora.
I don't recall it.
Aurora.
I got you.
And they get on the ship, and they see the amorphous blob that is the Emperor in all of its glory in Fugue with the closed loop communication device that they've built to grab the signals from his brain. And he once again tells Alexander to put this feud aside. But like at this point, as Doom has pointed out, he's allowed it to fester and grow for too long, right? Like Alexander is the Chantry's man. He is 100% in league with the Chantry. And I think some time passes, or they might he might dismiss them. But Hadrian ultimately, through these conversations or this conversation, is made Auctor because the Emperor's like, yeah, we don't like. There's no time. Like I can't be doing this anymore. We gotta finish the fight. And we've been waiting for Hadrian to be Auctor since, was it Demon in White or was it
Kingdoms of Death?
Kingdoms of Death.
Kingdoms of Death,
Mm-hmm.
where he thought it might happen, and instead he got sent to Padmarak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's the first time in like 1,000 years that there's been an Auctor, and Hadrian is Emperor in all but name now.
He gets a cool cape.
Yeah, and a neat title.
Cooler. Okay.
Lord
Shadow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to reskim the book in my head because there's some important information about like the Excubitors listen to him now because of his role. The head of the Martian Guard is not on his side.
Right.
He's part of the Alexander gang.
The Martians.
Yes, I believe we've met Yad now. Should we talk about Yod? We've met him, right? He's with the Chantry. He's over Alexander's shoulder all the time. I feel like this is because
I think it's not Yod that's behind his shoulder. It's a different one, but Yod is like always in the audience, like watching, right?
In the audience.
That sounds right.
Sorry.
The Senate chamber is like an auditorium with like seats and stuff.
A Yoditorium. So there's a couple instances of Yod. We meet him pretty early here, and we meet him outside Gododdin, yes?
On Gododdin, I believe.
On Gododdin.
Yeah.
The most important and interesting thing about Yod, I feel like, is endgame stuff. If we think that that's okay, we kind of jump around, right? We've kind of like talked about a bunch of endgame stuff already, but Yod is transmitting his thought form, right? Like we're all on that. We're all right there with it.
Oh,
and then do we think that?
Yeah.
Do we then assume that Alexander has also done the same thing?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
I don't think
we
they
assume
let
that
him into the
Aurora,
club.
No, he's not part
Only
of the
we assume
club.
Aurora survived, right?
He's not part of the club.
Well,
doesn't go
just
here.
based on Yada gets like killed, comes back, and then they're on Aurora, which is next to the exploding sun. Right, they're like not far away when that happens, yeah? Or am I misremembering?
So, to skip ahead to the precipice.
Yeah,
of
I
the
just
end
want
of
to talk
the book.
about Yod.
Yeah. So, I think we're all in agreement that Yod, like Karn Sargara, is able to like telegraph his thought form off-world or off-ship, as it were. The Aurora was pretty close to Gododdin when it went off, but the Aurora actually was present at Tenba, at Hadrian's execution. So I do think that they did manage for some reason to escape. Hadrian even says, and I'm remembering as I'm talking, Hadrian said they quit the field, which is a way of saying they ran. So they were able to get out of there before Gododdin went off. So the whole reason that Alexander and Yod, and by extension, the Order is able to survive Gododdin is because they ran like cowards.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I thought maybe Alexander was cool too.
No, he isn't. He's a weenie. I think we've established this.
No redeemable qualities.
None.
Never
absolutely
been cool.
Nothing to celebrate about that boy. I like Pheo said, I don't think he's like part of the cool kids club. I just don't. Yeah. He's definitely their puppet, and they only tell Alexander as much as they want, so he's like malleable. At this point, Alexander doesn't care who gives him power as long as he has it, but the Chantry is like the shortest way to that promise of
the shortest path.
The shortest path to the throne.
He's the shortest
way. The cycle
way.
continues.
Yeah, but I believe I still believe that he thinks he's doing what he does for the right reasons. He's like, I didn't like having to murder the Sun Eater, but I'm doing it for my father and for the Solar Throne and for mankind and the memory of the God Emperor. And the Chancellor's like, cool, that's what we want him to think, when in reality they're the ones pulling his strings. Well, so I don't think they tell him that much.
He also says at one point, part of the reason that he's doing this is because the Chantry made him aware that humanity is a small fish in the universal sea. That there are these crazy, old, ancient, strange empires out there that could gobble up humanity in an instant if they were made aware. And that's sort of the Order's main justification for doing what it does. It's like pumping this human supremacy propaganda to its people and then purposely keeping them low technology. And given we're explicitly told that a lot of Order higher ups eventually leave and join the Extrasolarians, this is not textual, but I think we can make an inference that maybe the Minos types of people are actually like more humanitarian than the Order, because they seem to think everyone should have this advanced technology.
Which is crazy.
I agree.
Crazy to say.
Yeah.
And now that we've mentioned Minos and the Order,
hell?
Right.
How about our boy Here Soon Changed?
Ooh.
What a good character.
Yeah, we haven't talked to him at all.
The best new character. First of all, incredible name. Just talking about himself. Here, I will soon be changed.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yep.
Right. And it's through him that we get a lot of these revelations about the Chantry.
Yes.
Yes,
He was
a
one.
lot of the
he's from Earth.
Yeah.
He was born there.
I was born, dude. I was born in Detroit. What are you talking about?
yeah.
He's American.
Like, Here Soon Changes from Earth, and is like, you don't know anything. Your Chantry isn't real.
Mhm.
That's just the postcard they show you. The Order is the one controlling everything from behind the scenes. It's crazy, that reveal, and I really enjoy his like whole perspective, and like Hadrian's incredulous when he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just building my own world where I can do whatever I want." And he's just like, "But it's not real." And he's like, "Not real to you, but I'm the one in there, and it's real to me."
Exactly.
And, then, yeah, keep going. Oh, you talk.
So
What are you gonna say?
I think that's huge, actually.
Mhm.
Here Soon Change talking about the universe that he's building, and when you think about the enclosure that his flesh body is contained within, his little glass orb on the spider body, but the mechanical aspect of it, right? In that he's creating this universe and he's getting closer and closer and closer to populating it, and that he will forever, that he believes to be immortal because he will be in the program.
Mhm.
Right, his thought form will be part of this program, and it will be perpetuated, so he can't die, and that's where like his immortality complex kind of comes from. But if you take that ability and you combine that with some of the things that Karn/Karn have told us about his beliefs, about her beliefs, and you think about the Absolute being in a room filled with wires going up to an egg, right? And all the wires run into it, and all the implications that has. And then you think about the movie The Matrix. I think that there are things that point to Sun Eater being a simulation.
There it is. I knew
In
it was
its
going
entirety.
Are we a simulation?
Simulation theory return.
I thought you were going
You know what
Men
I
in
mean?
Black
Like-
marble ending. We're just in a marble and they're hitting our universal marble against other ones.
Who's to say both aren't true?
¿Por qué no los dos?
You know? Yeah. Who's to say that the Absolute
I think-
isn't just some governing program? And it's just like, yo, you guys are stuck in there. What if the whole
that's
revelation at the end of Sun Eater is literally Hadrian is like, I've got more work to do, and it's him getting out of a pod, and he's like, all of humanity is still trapped in these pyramids.
Yeah, now that he believes
That would be
that
wild.
he's the one, he has the powers of the one.
Mm.
No, it's another thing that, like, with this series in general, right, is because we can talk about real life and the possibility of real life being a simulation,
Oh boy.
because people have those conversations. But we're not going to do that, because I
Are you sure?
do need to continue. Yeah, we only
The road to
we only
Gododdin
have
led
so
here.
much time. It's true.
Doom is having an existential crisis. We need to press forward.
But you can have the conversation in real life, but you can also have it about this book
Mhm.
and the series, which
Is it real?
goes
We
back
don't
to
know.
everything that I've said before.
Or is it dancers?
I know it's ooh,
That's a good one.
well done. I like that. yeah, no, I think that Here Soon Change is an absolutely incredible character who delivers exposition
Mm-hmm.
organically and interestingly, right? Because that's his purpose. And when we have the exposition that we need, he goes out in a ball of glory. But it brings those things and those beliefs because there are those different religions that are in this series, and Karn has his own viewpoint, and they also bring into play the Seekers,
Mm.
right? And there's a lot of things, and nothing is solidified, right? Nothing is pointed to besides the fact that the absolute does exist. Nothing is pointed at and saying that like this is the right answer. The absolute exists, but it doesn't answer any of the even bigger questions about the universe itself.
Mm-hmm.
How it came to be, where the absolute came from, and how that Ouroboros, or how that cycle starts in the first place. What came first, the absolute or the universe? So
What came first, the absolute or the egg?
yeah, right. It's very interesting that even that conversation on a meta level even exists within this series, and all of that gets brought into question, and that you could have people like us right now, if we all decided to take a side, we could have a lengthy discussion just on and defend what we think is the reality of Sun Eater, and like it's just even that's like insane that we could do that with this series, right? Like I could debate that it is a simulation, and you could tell me that it's not, and your reasons for it, but introducing all that stuff in book 7 is wild work. Absolutely wild work.
What I love about book 7 is that at the very beginning and at the start of the book, Hadrian completely uproots everything we thought about how this world works, about how the world that he lives in operates on like a basic level. Oh, Christopher spent 6 books telling us exactly how these things work. And then Hadrian like flips the table at the very end saying, this is actually how it works. This is why I've been, holding my cards close to my chest for this entire time. And now you actually get to see the world like I did for what it really is. And it's just a masterstroke from Christopher Andrew. Exceedingly good writing. But the fact that it took like 6 books for us to figure this out about how the galaxy works is crazy.
And now we need to reread the whole thing again with this knowledge. Because, just now, I was just thinking about that scene in Demon in White, okay, where they meet that AI in Nov Belgair.
Yes.
And we're told that the Chantry comes to take care of it after Hadrian leaves it. Uh-huh. Did the Chantry destroy it? Probably not. They probably took that thing back to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh my
God.
Well,
here's the other thing about Demon in White is Lorien breaking into a Chantry ship already. Right. One of the most impossible feats in the series. Now we know they had literal god tier AI, and the boys still won.
Right. Yes. No one fucks around with Lorien Aristides.
Because he broke into a Sentinel ship, right? Or one of their higher level ships. He definitely broke onto a ship that had AI on it. Mm-hmm. Not just one of their regular ships, which are already, I'm sure, very well protected. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Lorien, we haven't talked about him, but we are explicitly told in this book that he is the absolute's number 2. If Hadrian went off the reservation for whatever reason, Lorien would be the one to end the war with the Cielsen. And that's a cool revelation. It gives us a lot about Lorien's character. But for me, it raises so many other questions because we are told that there have been previous champions of the absolute. We're told the God Emperor was one. So who was his second, right? Because it's implied this is the pattern. Hadrian speculates at some point Karn Sagara might have been a potential champion at one point that went wrong somewhere along the way. And, Siriani has this super interesting line that never gets discussed back in Kingdoms of Death, where Hadrian asked what happened to the Vairatu. And he's like, I don't know, maybe they were destroyed by Utnash and its champions, which implies like a line of champions that goes back well before humanity. So yeah, there's all kinds of implications with this.
Gosh, there's so much.
Now I'm just imagining like 6'2" non-Intus Lorian, still short for a Poundtime, but like jacked, and he's just like no longer with a cane. You're just like, that. I don't like this image.
Instead of black hair, it's white hair.
Instead of white hair, it's black hair. No, I love the image of Lorian.
No, I picture him like Patrick Swayze now.
Jesus.
Swayze in Point Break. That's Lorian as the number 2. Hadrian's Keanu, in case y'all were wondering.
Far out. I love this. No, I love the idea of like.
If Lorian. I may.
Oh, go ahead. It wasn't an important one anyway.
No, please finish. We haven't really talked about Lorian. Say what you want.
No. So it's heartbreaking that, like, we'll pick up the Lorian thread later on down the road, obviously, but it's heartbreaking that Hadrian's like, yeah, the one person I wanted to talk to the most during this kerfuffle at Vargosos was Lorian, and Lorian wasn't, like, picking up the phone because of the revelation about Kaelin and her entities and Karn Sagara. But when we do finally see Lorian, they have, like, 2 minutes to, like, explain to each other what happened, and it almost seems rushed and it almost seems forced, but I love the image of Lorian Aristides remaining exactly as he is, and regardless of whether he's like extrasolarian or a Solon, like he will always be as we see him, which is a complete and utter badass. Sun Eater would not be Sun Eater without Lorian Aristides, and I can say that with like 100% certainty. Getting off my soapbox.
There's like 2 major things I think that I have left that I want us to touch on, and then I know Mal has mentioned the schizo section. So we'll go over that and whatever we want to talk about in regards to Lorian any further. But just kind of to encompass from Hadrian becoming Octor until the sun gets blown up, which felt like a long time. I'm not going to talk necessarily about chapter count or anything, but and to kind of remain a little more PG, even though we've said some bad words, it felt not dragged out, but like the whole time you're waiting, like, oh, is this going to be it? Are we finally blowing up the sun now? Oh, is this going to be it? Oh, is this going to be it? And it just kept kind of getting pushed to the next chapter because so much is happening. So much is being revealed to us. So much of the inner workings of things are going on. And it didn't feel like it took too long. It didn't feel like the pacing was bad. But it definitely, the book encapsulated the feeling that I had reading these books live. And by live, I mean like as they released. Where, especially in the beginning, when I was buying the mass markets, I didn't know how many books they were going to be. I wasn't involved with anything. So every time I picked up a new one, starting with Howling Dark, I was like, oh, do we blow up the sun this book? And then the next book was like, oh, is this the book? And so that started to be my, I can't wait to blow up the sun next book. And and then eventually, you get on YouTube and Christopher started his thing and you start getting more involved in the community. And this book kind of is that whole feeling within the book, like, oh man, we're finally doing it. But when are we doing it? Right?
Yeah.
How do you guys feel? How do you guys feel like that was handled overall? The pacing of dragging that out, but I feel like that's poorly phrased because it didn't feel bad to me at least. Mm-hmm. But if you guys want to talk about that, and then I want to talk about the end and stuff going on with that, and then we'll go off and talk about the schizo stuff.
Well, I think the dragging on, as you put it, of Hadrian and co waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of like the Cielson getting to Gododdin and that final battle kicking off. I think it was really well executed because he was twiddling his thumbs with we were. Like, we're anxious about, like, oh God, what's going to happen? And he's the same. He's like, no one's heard from the Cielson after Danu, and we don't know where they are, and we're just trying to get as many people off the planet as we can, and we're running out of time. We're running out of time. That's the whole thing. We're running out of time. We don't have enough time. And we learn that they've been waiting on their hands this whole time, waiting for the Cielson to show up, when in fact, drumroll please, the Cielson were ransacking Forum. And we don't know this until it happens after the fact. And the Chantry were blocking communications from Gododdin to Forum. So it took 2 years for message to get through. Rotten to the core. Absolutely rotten to the core. So the whole anxiety that we get from waiting to hear about the Cielson and wanting to know more, it's purposeful, because this entire time the action's happening elsewhere and Hadrian doesn't know about it. And so we're right there with him, feeling the anxiety, just waiting for news, and news isn't coming. And so when the news that Forum is finally gone, that is what, kicks off the entire battle. Hadrian going, okay, there's no denying it now. They actually are coming, and we are indeed out of time. 2 years!
Pheo, do you want to add anything?
That I was like on the edge of my seat the whole book, because like we go to Gododdin so early, and we're just like, we're here now. Okay, is it the next chapter? Is it the next chapter? Like, that sense of tension and dread was just so good. And it's owed to the fact that Chris Ruocchio tells us what happens. Page 1, chapter 1 of Empire of Silence. And we've been waiting this whole time for this event. We know what's going to happen in this book. We just don't know when. Because we know there's also more story to tell after that happens. So it's like, it was so palpable. It was so good. And I hated it and loved it at the same time while I was reading this book.
Doom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
At
Mal?
first, at first I was definitely like, what is that? Like, why is this taking, like, what are they doing? And then the Chantry blocking everything so they don't know, which also, again, is another point against William, because it's like, how is it that you have all this advanced knowledge of what the Chantry can do, or that they're manipulating you? How do you not have safeguards in place to protect Forum? I get committing your fleet to whatever. I understand all of that, but at the same time, it's like, how do you not have the forethought to protect your capital, knowing that Forum being the symbol that, like, no one leaves a it just didn't make sense to me. Again, I just think that's William being incompetent. But yeah, then you find out it's just wiped out. The Solon heart has been ripped out of the galaxy, and it's very, I don't know. I was kind of in shock I did not think that would happen. I thought Forum was just going to be fine, or if they did go there again, it would be a battle and not just a sacking, and then they don't hear about it for years.
Off screen.
Crazy to think about. Yeah. Off screening, the sacking of Forum is crazy, and I'm really excited.
Calvert is wild.
What happened to him? Karn got sick of his shit. The weird shit with the clone like all the clones sitting there, and Calvert's just like, I think that one's name is Jim, and Karn's like, stop it.
You can't name them.
Stop naming them. He's just like, but Jim, and he's like, get out.
It's canon. It happened.
Yeah. He named a Karn clone Jim and got fired.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
What were we talking about?
You were saying the off-screen sacking of Forum. Wild.
I think that'd be a really cool short story to explore too,
just
to see the horror
my goodness.
of, what do they call the peregrine palaces or whatever, falling, the floating islands, just falling to the ground, and much to the chagrin of Coast, Maria Agrippina not surviving. You guys get it.
Yeah.
She can't walk her way out of that one.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just don't expect it, and when it hits, it's like a delayed punch. You like get hit, and you're like, "Wait, what?" And then you feel the damage.
Before
It's
Mal
like, and we
puts
did
in his-
see a vision of this too.
Yes, we saw a vision of it, but Hadrian didn't know if it was true or not. Before Mal jumps on it,
Yeah.
like, I think the word that I'm looking for is demoralizing. Like, it's demoralizing to us as a reader. Imagine what it would have been like as someone stationed on Gododdin hearing for the first time that the heart of the Solid Empire has fallen into the hands of the Cielsen. You know, that's the word that comes to mind. It's like, wow, so there really is no hope. Great.
Take it away, Mal.
So I really like the pacing of this section. I like the political maneuvering. Obviously, we get a little bit of the romance with Hadrian and Selene, and eventually them married. We learn that the emperor like directly controls the genetic keys of the Palatine houses, which is very important. And we get a scene on Gododdin because they're basically like, one thing that did surprise me about this book is like the plan was always to destroy Gododdin's son. It was to bring all the Cielsen in and then blow up the sun. So it's like, well, we can't just let all the people here die. So they start the evacuation. And during the evacuation, there's, eventually riots. The people are rioting over it. And there's a really interesting fight sequence, chase sequence, where Hadrian is like, is Yushara here? Is she not? Is she, in the hearts of these men, like making them violent? Or is this just all like political intrigue that's been whipped up against me? And Hadrian he kind of gets to a point where he thinks he's above the politics, and Alexander and the Chantry essentially play dirty to try to discredit him. I really liked all of that. And I liked having these big, intense action sequences that didn't involve the Watchers. Ruocchio showing he can still write an interesting sequence that doesn't have a supernatural threat. And then, I am surprised because I keep hearing people say, like, they expected the sun to be destroyed at any moment. And I guess my anticipation going into this book is it's going to be destroyed towards the end of the book, at the end of Gododdin's battle. So if the battle hasn't even started yet, we're not just going to end a random chapter where Hadrian is like, screw you, I've had enough of this, I'm blowing up the sun.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that would be definitely out of character, I think.
Just Edward, hit the button.
Other thing about Forum falling. So yeah, I try to pay like close attention to logistics, right? Because people are like, how could Forum fall? Siriani, I believe it said, has about 1,500 world ships and sent 500 of them into Forum, which is 1/3 of the Cielsen Rix, basically. It didn't matter how many ships they had there. There was no way they had enough to fight 500 Cielsen. That's probably like maybe in the low trillions in terms of the amount of Cielsen that were there. Because they say at Danu, there were 9 world ships present, and I think the siege of Nessus had 13, and like 13 was the most anyone had seen ever. So, and like 500 makes 13 look like peanuts, right? Like, one thing to think about too, Hadrian gives them the dark light cannon on Forum to both the Jadians and the Solons, right? So they had a dark light cannon. They did not. I mean, I'm sure they destroyed a lot of world ships, but in the end, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But really, the destruction of Forum, it was something that was predicted. Hadrian saw it a lot in visions, not just once, multiple times. Demon in White and Ashes of Man, he sees it. So I was expecting it, but I was expecting it to be this major action sequence where Hadrian was there, present at the planet when it fell. So for it to happen off screen and kind of get revealed was a pretty shocking moment. And not just that, but that the order was keeping it from everyone in the system, which I'm not sure if it was Doom, but someone pointed out that this ultimately worked against them because the Order's plan was basically to let the Sealson win and, survive in the shadows, right? And scrape a survival. And by preventing the news coming out, they kept all of humanity's forces present in Gododdin so they could win later on. So even though keeping the news was a terrible thing to do, it ultimately worked against them. Because had they found out, they would have left right away, right?
Oh, yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
Hadrian would not have been able to keep everybody there.
Yeah.
No, they would have dipped.
Yeah. It really solidified the Gododdin as humanity's last stand. We can't rely on Forum. We can't rely on any of the major planets in any of the other provinces or the arms of the galaxy. We can't rely on the Jodians and some of the Tavrosi and some of the other members of this interstellar alliance come at the last. But no other help from the Empire itself is coming, and so Hadrian's really exacerbated the fact it's this is where we stand, and this is where we're gonna die. But so be it.
Now, one thing that's interesting about this is we're told most of the Imperial family is present on Forum when it falls, including Crown Prince Aurelian.
Really?
Yeah. Some of the other members of the Imperial family that we have met, some of the ones we've just heard mentioned, but who's not there is the Empress. She has retired to Aventine.
Avalon?
Right?
Avalon.
Or Avalon?
Not Shakespeare. Is she on Shakespeare? Aventine. But she's basically not present. And apparently there's something else that involves her called the Knight of Knives. That we've only heard mentioned and don't really have a ton of details about, but it appears to be some sort of attack on Aventine. And I just, why the Empress wasn't there, I don't know, but given that she seems to be involved with all this Chantry Order stuff, and specifically, maybe corrupting is the wrong word, but strongly influencing Alexander to go down that path, I do wonder if maybe they either gave her a heads up or got her out.
Something to think about.
So the sun blows up. There's some cool stuff like Lorien using his ship and riding the solar waves.
God, he's so damn cool.
He's so cool.
He's so
I want
cool.
and then obviously, Alexander and Hadrian having their gladiator moment with the rib stab before he's hung. And Hadrian sending Bassander, as we've mentioned, sending Bassander and Cassandra off because he just has to deal with his consequences, if you will, I suppose, for doing the Absolute's bidding. So he sends them off into the universe, which allows us to have further Sun Eater stories. And whether those Sun Eater stories in the future are going to deal with the Sun Eater, right? Like the fallout of Hadrian's life, or just within the universe that Christopher created, I guess, is to be seen. Whether Cassandra is the new protagonist, or if it's so far in the future from this that those things don't even really matter, because the world is so big here, right? Like, he could do anything. But I digress. The end of the book I want to get to, since we've been going for almost 3 hours, if that's okay. Unless anyone has anything hyper, passionate to say between those two.
Celine and Hadrian get married, and it's a great moment. And
it's a wonderful moment.
I just want to say that.
Yeah. They definitely don't teach about that in Saul in history.
In secret.
I gotta hijack things for a second, Joe. I did say when I started these, as we go forward in the books, I would have more to say. Gododdin, specifically Darren Tunn, Hadrian shows up, and we get this image. It's sort of implied to be in his head, but it also seems to be real, of Valka taking his hand, the Red Company lining up behind him, all 90,000. and what is the like opening of the book? When you open the book, you look at the front cover. It says the trumpet sounds, and what happens as Hadrian marches on the dust jacket. As it marches, we get 2 horn blasts that Hadrian is described as being blown by a junior cornican, which is a low rank in the Roman Empire of someone who would blow horn signals to the surrounding armies to give them the orders, right? The marching orders. And I think that horn blast is really important. We'll talk about it more in the schizo section. But just the image of like Valka being there, the Red Company returned, announcing Hadrian's presence on Darrington. And then we get one of the aliens that we've only heard of, never seen, and it basically says, "I'm a silksong creature come to life." It domes Siriani, and then it dies. And I thought people hate this moment so much, but it doesn't even really get talked about. And the chapter is called Deus Ex Machina, which I think is really funny.
You're right.
Ruocchio has a talent for naming chapters.
Oh my god!
So right.
Yep.
But and then after all of that, we get extended vision. We get extended vision sequences, and we get the Watchers fighting Hadrian, and they're throwing spaceships around and stuff. But like as they're escaping the Aurora to go back to the Demiurge, we get this one moment where like the Order is trying to take things over, and the Nahute are coming down the hallway, and the Order guys just turn them off. And like, I have never been angrier in a book than reading that.
I was so pissed.
Because one of the criticisms of this series is that there's too many scenes with the Nahute, and those scenes are there.
No, that's
this one at the end can drive home that the entire time they had the ability to turn these things off that killed so many people. They killed people back in book 1. The Cielsen in the caves at Caliga use them, and they kill some of the Jadians. And this entire time they could have been turned off and stopped, and the Order just didn't feel that was something they should give the armies of men.
They're the worst.
They're the worst.
Yeah, the criticism being that why doesn't the Empire just make countermeasures for the Nahute? Like, why don't they do that? Why? Because they can't. Because literally someone is stopping them.
Yeah.
Diabolical.
Hi.
Hadrian getting, I don't know, like Syria. Yeah, that was a slip. I meant to say Hadrian not killing Siriani was kind of lame. The big weird moth thing, just doming him. I thought that was a choice. I personally didn't like it. I think it would have been cooler had the queen like freed herself and given it a little bit of a fight. That would have been cool. Like it had been hiding its real strength for this exact moment, but instead it's like, just kidding. Like bar fight killed him.
He was.
We can talk more about
Siriani
this.
at that point was just like a shell of who he was, right? He was just a fragile vase that contained Mjudnar.
Yeah, but it's kind of
Siriani
I can see where people feel like it's a rug pull, where it's like he's built up to be a bad guy, and yeah, he's ultimately tricked by the Watchers. But at the same time, like, at least give him, a little something. I feel like just him being like, no, and then club. Don't worry about it.
Having translated some of the Akkadian in it, it does appear that there's some merging of Siriani and Mjudnar. And you get this from some of the lines in the text as well. But some of the Akkadian lines make this a little bit more clear. Like there's some part of Mjudnar that is actively the Siriani we've known this entire series. Like it's calling Hadrian kinsman. It's talking to him in the way Siriani normally does.
What'd you guys think of the end of the book? Start with Mal. I don't think I've started with you, buddy. Let's start with you.
I think it's perfect. I've reread the ending chapters post Gododdin like 10 times, and each time I like them more. It is my favorite section of Sun Eater, hands down. Book 7, maybe number 1, maybe number 2, but I think the last 10 chapters are perfect. That last conversation between Hadrian and Besander Lin, where he tells him to seek hardship and only do what must be, is incredible. I think the last line of the series before you get to the Dear Reader part in his tender care, the absolute snap my neck at once. I think that's a legendary line that's going to go down in sci-fi history.
Yes.
I do want to do a little bit of an apologia here, because there's a lot of people who say, why doesn't Hadrian go and start conquering? Why does he do what he does? And when you read this section over and over again, this part of the book makes some clear distinctions between Hadrian of the moment and narrator Hadrian. And so Hadrian of the moment thinks he's going to die, but doesn't think everyone around him is also going to die. And he kind of is like unsure whether he should be pursuing this emperor thing. Narrator Hadrian, a couple hundred years down the line from this, knows that pursuing the emperor thing was wrong, and it was the wrong thing to do. And like one of the reasons, because people are like, well, he didn't pursue being emperor because he didn't want to cause a civil war and all of this. He didn't pursue being emperor for 2 reasons. One is he's immortal, and he's seen a bunch of visions of his reign that are kind of all terrible. He has a terrible, horrible, beautiful Galadriel queen at his side, and like people are bringing him skulls, right? And it does not look like a good future for the galaxy and humanity. The other reason he doesn't take the throne is because he knows there are other watchers out there. He can see them in hyperspace, and he doesn't want to plunge humanity into endless war with these things. He mentions a couple of times he is a lighthouse beacon, and destroying Gododdin is already going to attract some of them. Once that light hits other galaxies, the watchers there are going to notice, and they're going to come to our galaxy. And like if Hadrian takes the throne, it's basically eternal war against the watchers or joining with one. Those are both much worse options than what he did. And people say, well, he's dumb not to send Selene away when he sends Cassandra and Edward. They did not expect Tenba to have all of these things. Like Hadrian knew he was going to die, but he didn't know how. He was not expecting there because he thought Alexander was dead. Genuinely thought this. He did not believe he was alive. Did not know that the coward had quit the field. So when they show up at Tenba and an entire imperial fleet is arranged against them, and they have a handful of ships, 3 million men, Hadrian realizes right away he's been outplayed, and there's not much more that can be done.
Yep.
Doom. The end.
I pretty much agree with every point Mal said. I think that the last line is absolute banger.
Yep.
I think the series ended the way it's supposed to. The criticism about the ending not being happy, then you have not been reading the same series as the rest of us.
Yeah.
What else can I say? I think the other thing too with the obviously with the whole I do, yeah, that's what I was going to say first is Watcher Hunting Hadrian I called like 3 books ago.
Yeah.
Just that's a pure swish of the net. I knew, I could feel it in my bones that's where this was going, that Hadrian was going to give it up for a higher purpose, and that higher purpose is killing higher celestial beings. But I think the perspective that Mal brought up, like narrator versus Hadrian in the moment, like he's being very forthright and being like, I was fucking stupid, and I thought, yep, this is how it's going to go. And then obviously, though, when you have a different perspective and you have forethought, you can look back and be like, oh yeah, that was pretty dumb, thinking that I was going to get away with that. It does also lend itself to how narrator Hadrian is framing everything, and there's just little nuances that, like I said earlier, could have been corrected that didn't, that lead to like Hadrian omitting things, right? And like lies of omission where he's just not including everything. But then there are the slips where he's including things that probably shouldn't have included. And is it on purpose? Because like Mal was saying earlier, if his memoir is seen as scripture, it'd be interesting to see that is he dropping hints to the people reading so that like you know what I mean? Like he's telling people the truth in the margins, right? Like in between the words he's writing down, he is telling the people who believe in him, like, hey, like maybe I wasn't alone here, or and maybe somebody's alive that you don't think so because I outwardly say that I don't know if they lived, or I haven't seen them, which could also be a straight up lie. You know what I mean? So I thought the book, the nice thing about the way it ended is that there are so many interpretations to the way it ended, and I think in a lot of modern literature with a black and white ending, it's you get a lot of closure, you close all the gaps, but life is never so neat. You don't always get closure, you don't always get all the facts, you don't always see everything, and I like the fact that Sun Eater ends on this note that's like there's a million different ways depending on your own experience that you could be like, oh, this is how I saw it, this is how I saw it. And I think that's really interesting, and I like because it comes up with all these crazy plot hole, or not plot holes, but theories, things that can take root in the margins and in between the text that's written down, and how much of it is like the weird dynamic that is Christopher being Hadrian being facetious, like if that makes sense. And that like the
Because
layers
Orphan
to
lived.
it. Damn right. Because both characters but both characters in that orphan moment definitely act completely out of character, except I mean the other thing too that like makes no sense to me, like Lorien being so quick with that didn't make any sense. And then the other thing too is like Orphan displays like enhanced reflex the first time they meet, like super crazy like feats of speed and strength, and you're just telling me he just gets domed because he throws a tantrum? Lame. I think they're just hiding the demiurge, because the reason he gives it is so that Alexander doesn't get it. And it's like, cool, man, space is you've made so many points about how space is so large and so empty, and that ship cannot be tracked. Like, why would you then destroy it? Those don't connect,
It's also the best way to hunt the Watchers, right?
Exactly. You give yourself a weapon. You give yourself an army, right? Who, and this is another thing I was thinking about as we were talking, is if you think about it, the end of the book feels kind of chaotic in that like not a lot of things get wrapped up, right? Like you don't know what happens to the Danuins, Cassandra, Edward, Pisander, like what they're, kind of what they're doing, and you have a sense of what they might do, but you don't know 100%. But if you think about the end goal of Hadrian wanting to disappear so that he can fight the Watchers in peace, he's given himself like the pieces. He has his flagship. He has his pilot. He has his, confidants. He has his commanders. He now has essentially a religious militant zealot order that will follow him anywhere. You know what I mean? He's got he's got his own personal, what are they called in the Auxilia? He's got Urchton, right? Like we don't know what happens to them. But if Hadrian, who has been pretty close to keeping his word all the time, keeps them safe, keeps them with him, and they go to fight, the greater beings with him, he's gonna keep his promise to the Urchtani eventually, right? Because now he is this immortal being who's been resurrected. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you start to think about it in the frame that like Hadrian is going to do what you think he's going to do, he set himself up perfectly. And this memoir is him being like, in my mind, it's almost braggadocio. Like if it plays out the way I think, it's like him bragging almost. Be like, gotcha, bitch. Like, oh yeah, nope, ship's blown up. Don't have to look for it, Alexander. It's gone. Worry about the fact that you can't have children, you fucking loser. And then it's like, your sister's dead. Definitely not my wife. Definitely not somewhere else. My wife. Sorry. You know what I mean? Like he's set it up. My wife. But, God, I'm lame. But you get what I'm saying? Like if you look at it, like all these like dangling threads suddenly start to twist and connect, and it's like, man, this just seems like a masterful stroke of propaganda at the end, where he's just like, yep, and that's how my life sucked. My wife's dead, both of them. My kid's gone. Edward's a nerd, and he's with my daughter. That's lame. Don't know what happens to anyone. Don't care. Haven't looked them up. Like, it just goes so counterintuitive to the Hadrian that we know, and it's like a Hadrian that's given up doesn't make sense. But Hadrian, like, being dead for a little bit is probably, like, in my mind, he's sitting in the Howling Dark talking to Valka, and then the Quiet's like, all right, cool, dude, you got your reward. Back to work. You know what I mean? And he comes back like maybe 50 to 100 years later, and he's just like, yeah, the Quiet's pretty rad. Let's go kill these guys, because if not, we're getting the worst version of the galaxy coming up. That's my headcanon that I have carefully constructed in my own schizo brain.
And thanks for coming to Doom's TED Talk.
That was actually the schizo section.
And if you think I'm crazy, I don't care. Just kidding. Please, I swear I make sense. I swear it
Pheo,
makes sense.
Yes.
what do you think about the end?
I think it's good. I actually wanted to add to what Malrubius was saying before about like the two different reasons why Hadrian didn't go and destroy the Earth and become emperor, because there was also a third reason, and that was just that it was not his purpose.
Yes.
The empire is in decline. It needs to decline. It doesn't need it. It should not be saved by Hadrian, and you should not try to do that because it's not his purpose, and it needs to die. The Chantry needs to die. And that was the third reason. And also, it made for a very bittersweet, but I thought that was the perfect ending. That, yeah, the Empire is dying. In the end, even though for now Alexander and the Order are in charge and they've seemingly won, they will ultimately fail. And Hadrian has faith in the fact that that will happen. I love that ending. And there was one more thing I was going to say. I lost it. Maybe it'll return to me later.
It was about Celine. We all know it was about Celine.
Well, I can always talk about Celine.
Go on.
All right. If you remember, please say something. Oh, there
Nicephorus.
we go.
Oh,
Nicephorus
Nikki.
being
Yeah.
the genetic keys to the kingdom, to the Palatine blood, like the key to making new Palatines. And he just gets taken out by this random soldier. Oh my goodness.
It's almost poetic.
Right?
He definitely
So,
did that shit on purpose, right?
He-
Like, he
yeah.
was definitely
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, Hadrian,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
watch this, bro. I'm gonna go get shot real quick. And just like walked up and starts yelling, and then someone just shooting.
letting
And
loose
he's
on
like, and then he's
Alexander.
sitting there dying. He's like, gotcha, bitch.
Gotcha, bitch.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
He knew
So
it was a lost cause, that entire what was going on. He was like, I need to die.
I do have a concern about that aspect, which is, why does the person who has the DNA need to be alive? Like, can't they just like harvest his blood or his DNA off his dead body?
It was like the technology or something for the
I
door,
don't think
right?
it works like that.
I think the ring
Yeah.
is the key, but it has to be on the person.
Well,
It's-
the door pricked William's
like-
finger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the ring has to like be there. It's like a two-phase key, so the ring has to be there, and the perfect genetic sample has to be there as well.
And he has
So
to be
like
alive.
any degradation in the DNA would probably, like, it probably has a way of detecting whether the person's alive or not. I mean, it's advanced science fiction technology, right?
Right.
It's got to be there.
Okay, that's fair. I accept.
Okay, that's fair.
Because if not, their whole
Ryan,
plan
you're-
was dumb, and William's stupider than I thought.
Well, that was the
Sweet
only
shit.
thing I could think of. Is like, couldn't they just like take this guy's arm off and like just stick it in there? But
No.
that's a good point.
Mm.
Orion, the end.
Oh boy. I'll get it right out of the way. The line "Seek hardship, Basanderlin" will never not make me weepy. Like, oh god, I was a
Are
wreck.
you weepy?
Just a wee bit. Just a bit. Man, the whole scene of Basander coming to Hadrian's cell and urging him, please come with me. Please come with me. It was just like, it's just taking a cheese grater to my heart, man. The fact that something we haven't brought up this entire video, Hadrian's, ever evolving relationship with Pisander.
So good.
They so good. They met as rivals. They didn't like each other for the entirety of Howling Dark. Hadrian's not used to Pisander's new awe of him through the rest of the series, and they reconnect at Gododdin, and then at the very end at Tenbo when Pisander is just so... Pisander himself is having a crisis of faith, because since Howling Dark, Pisander has convinced himself that Hadrian is the one, and Hadrian has denied it this entire time. But Pisander is grasping so desperately for something for himself to hold on to, because it's not just Hadrian's world that's ending. It's not just the solid empire that's on its last legs. Pisander's whole perspective of how the universe and the galaxy work is ending, and he needs something to carry on. And Hadrian gives that to him in the form of his, I believe the term, like the proper term, Mal, correct me if I'm wrong, is a panegyrist, someone who, writes down the term, the life and times, as it were.
That word means speech giver.
Speech giver. Okay, cool. I actually did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
The more you know. But Hadrian says, if you need to do something, do this for me. Go to Colchis, set this, down at the grave of my father, who we know is Gibson, which, don't cry. And when he tells him, don't cry. Seek hardship, Sunderland. That always gets me. It gets me every single time. And in terms of, was Hadrian supposed to march upon Earth? Was Hadrian supposed to be the emperor? Was Hadrian supposed to rule the Solon Chantry, the Solon Empire, and destroy the Chantry with his smoking hot wife? Absolutely not. If people who believe that the book didn't stick the landing because Hadrian didn't triumph in the end, there's no appeasing those people.
Yeah,
That's a certain type of reader that they haven't been picking up what Christopher's been putting down this entire time. You've had 7 books to get with the program, and at the end they're just like, oh, he should have taken over, and he should have... Get out. Get the fuck out. Just
right.
leave.
First page, we're told he's hung.
First page! And people are like, what do you mean he doesn't win in the end? What do you mean he doesn't triumph? What do you mean he doesn't become, the most giga-chattest dude of all time? The most, aura farming? I don't care. I don't give a shit. We were told at the very beginning of this entire fiasco that Hadrian was hung for all the worlds to see. And that happened. We were told that he was responsible for the destruction of a son. That happened. And people have the gall to think that this is a happy story. Get the hell out of here. I'm sorry. I have opinions. I loved the ending of this book. It broke my heart. Put it back together with super glue in an finished, unperfect way, and then smashed it again. I was sitting here in the dark, inconsolable. I was immobile for maybe 20 minutes, and my cats were like, "You okay, buddy? You good?" I was here alone, just crying my eyes out because I won't ever be able to experience this again for the first time. And it broke my heart in the best way possible. And the line, as Malrubius said, the absolute in all his tender care snapped my neck at once. Oh, no one's going to top that. No one's going to top that. That line will never be topped, I don't think. maybe it'll be topped again by Christopher himself in upcoming projects, but like no one else can make that happen. God, this book ripped my heart out. 10 out of 10.
Orion, may your struggle ease your pain.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was seriously like trying to like think of a way I could tastefully seek hardship tattooed somewhere on my body. One day.
I loved the end of the book. I thought it was very Sun Eater. I thought it was very appropriate. And a lot of the complaints that I see is that Hadrian doesn't tell the story of what happens between his final death and getting to Colchis. And I think that to me makes sense because he's telling the story of the Sun Eater and he has now eaten the sun. That I agree with all those people. I want to know where and when he came back to life. Absolutely, I want to know that information. I want to know, what did he get up to before he made it to Colchis? What drove his decision to go to Colchis and write this?
Mm-hmm.
How much information or what was going on in the galaxy that informed him of the people who were following him, or informed him of the side of his story that hasn't been told being his, and like what all the mistakes were? What drove him to want to correct it? Why does he care what the people of the Empire believe? All those things, I would love to know that information.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Now that you're saying that, it would 100% be subterfuge. If he's like, oh, they're looking for Selene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're looking for the Demiurge. Let me write this. You know what I mean? And then skillfully have it distributed. And then all of a sudden, the Empire's like, oh, he blew it up? What? That's crazy. And it ends those things. It's like, no wonder we can't find it. It's blown up. No wonder we can't find the Selene. She's dead.
It's the, which also, like, I love all the theories. I agree with all of them because they just make sense. It just makes sense for Hadrian to hide those things within his work that he has tried to say is the truth the whole time, right? And then to plant those seeds to keep those people safe. And it also leads me to believe that, like, if she is there, if the theory is true and Hadrian is with Selene, right? Like, it can't be Selene will live longer than most other Palatines, but it can't be super far because she is not immortal, right? So it has to be big picture somewhere, kind of like short term post death for Hadrian.
Me and Malrubius have this all planned out.
Fantastic.
This whole theory.
I empathize with everybody who doesn't like the ending for those reasons, and I think that at their core, it's not that they don't like the ending, it's that they want more. Right? I think that for the story and the way that the story's been told, and the person who's telling the story being Hadrian, the ending makes so much sense. And I think that knowing that Christopher had planned 2 more chapters and wrote this, I think 3 more chapters and wrote this, and came and, like, I think he had like an epiphany and came to the realization at that moment that, like, oh wait, right, as he described it, he finished this chapter and he was like, that's it, that's the perfect spot. And it is, because
he's writing it like a climax or something.
Was he?
If he went any further, if he gave any allusion to any other information, or started started walking down any other path for this story, it would have fed into the same emotions everyone's feeling even greater. Right? If he said, and then 100 years later, I woke up on, right? It's the start of another story.
Yeah.
It's not the last 2 chapters, right? Like this is the Sun Eater. That is where the Sun Eater ends. Because then when, like Doom said, when Hadrian wakes up, he's not the Sun Eater, he's the Watcher Hunter. Right? His title is changed. He is someone else at that point. This role, this purpose has been completed. So it felt like the most Sun Eater way to end this. I love it. I'll want more. I'm looking forward to life. And go ahead.
I was going to say, you say he's not the Sun Eater anymore. This is getting into a little schizo thing. There may be something else Ruocchio has written with a character who may or may not have certain sun-eating traits. And that would be the god Adram in Adaman, who we are specifically told destroys suns. And Adaman is serving Adram and praying constantly that Adram comes and wipes everything away in holy fire, using almost the exact same language that is used to describe the light of Gododdin.
And
it's
I've
like
heard Mal say that
word
before.
Different.
Yeah, I've heard Mal say that exact thing before, and it led me down a weird path of going to the humanity's like worst future that Hadrian goes to in Disquiet Gods and comparing like descriptions to the Adaman stories, and it's like it's not one for one, but I could 100% believe that like that's like A to C, and then Adaman is like B somewhere there, and I would believe it 100%. Because like if you think about the twisted genome and all that stuff, and the need for like blood, which is a common thing in sci-fi, with blood therapy being a way to fix genetic problems. The weird thing in the tube in the Adaman story could 100% be like some sort of twisted Sol and Palatine after they try to fix their own problem. You know? That's more schizo, but... think about it.
Okay. Is there going to be a test or?
No. I'll just say it again. After when Mal brings that up again, I'll be just like pop over his shoulder and be like, and if you really think about it.
Joe, are you ready to go full schizo? Can I tell you what I think would happen in chapter 92? 91 ends. Yes. Hadrian's hanged.
Yes.
Next book, what happens?
Yes, please do.
So, boy, here we go.
Some of this is drawing from a lot of the things that have been released on the Patreon. So they're out there. They're maybe not super public, but it's like okay to talk about them. I'm not going to talk about anything that is not released. But the opening to the High Matter edition of Howling Dark, which was posted on the Patreon almost a year ago at this point, says it's a story that the people of Pharos tell. It's this biblical story, or it's a story told in like a biblical tale of the founding of the Red Company. So Hadrian goes to Pharos, right, with the Red Company when they're a militia group with Basander Lin. They get Corvo on their side and they overthrow Mary's Went. Well, what happens in this story is the angel Gabriel appears to Hadrian in a dream. And it says in that story that Gabriel had not yet blown his horn, i.e. the trumpet. So Gabriel basically tells Hadrian, go do X, Y, and Z, and you'll get this giantess on your side who'll help you win. And then Hadrian does those things and they win, right? That's basically the rest of it. But the appearance of Gabriel there specifically, and Gabriel with a horn that is not yet blown, is important here. Now, the opening to the High Matter edition / Diamond edition of Empire of Silence is the first letter of Imra, which is Imra is one of Siren's descendants who's a keeper on Nessus, and she's writing to Aloran, and she tells him that Hadrian was saved from his fate by an agent of the power that made him what he was. So basically, Hadrian says in Disquiet Gods that he never encountered the Absolute again. He never heard his voice. He never saw him again. He did get that message at the end of this book, but he's like never heard him or met him again. So I think what happens is Hadrian is hanged. He ends up in the Howling Dark. He meets Gabriel, and then he is sort of sent back in time. Maybe not in time, but through hyperspace, he can go and affect the visions that we see throughout the series. Because starting in book 1, we get this green-eyed Hadrian that is appearing in the ruins on Caliga and the mountain on Annika and a couple of other times. And sometimes it is Hadrian in his powers, like an alternate dimension Hadrian reaching out to him. But I think the ones in Caliga and the mountain on Annika are a post-hanged Hadrian. Now, in Howling Dark, when Hadrian dies, he goes and he sees a Hadrian that does not have green eyes, but is dressed in very fine armor. The exact line, as I posted in the Discord earlier today, this is what Doom and I agree on, is his kit was as fine as any emperor's. So I think the first thing that happened in a chapter 92 is he goes and he sees himself in the Howling Dark and points himself back out. And in Shadows Upon Time, when he's in hyperspace going to see the Emperor, he's like walking from the bridge of the Demiurge to the bridge of the Aurora. He's confronted by Yushara and Maiudinar and Siriani. And this green-eyed Hadrian appears and fights them all off. And Hadrian says, "Come with me." And the green-eyed Hadrian points at his heart and points at Hadrian. And I read that. Other people have different reads on it, but I read that as him saying, "We're the same. You and I, we're the same person." And Hadrian even has a line in the book where he's like, "I thought I understood," which is an interesting line. Hadrian thinks lots of things. He's rarely correct. And so I think that is what would happen in these chapters is you get a Hadrian running around, essentially like meeting himself, younger self, making all those things happen. I don't think we would have ended with Hadrian at the gates of Colchis. We maybe would have ended up with him back in the world, maybe even deciding to go to Colchis. But, who can say what's in Ruocchio's mind? I'm just speculating. The other schizo thing I want to go over, there are 3 schizo things. So there's Watcher Hadrian and running around time happening in the 3 chapters. There is the Order. Now, the Order is interesting because they are essentially pagan priests. Here, Soon Changed says his mother was a priestess of Nut, which was an Egyptian either sky or water goddess. And we get other implications that the chant throughout the series, that the Chantry have been worshiping the Watchers, right? We're specifically told Fate is a Watcher in book 6, and it seems obvious that Bloody-Handed Evolution is Maiudinar. Now, the schizo part of this comes in is that we see the Watchers want to destroy the universe. That doesn't seem to be the goal of the Order. And we're also told that there are these old, ancient galactic empires out there. And one thing Ruocchio has said again and again and again is you can't use warp to get to another galaxy. Now, we've done the math on the Discord. Maybe you could, and other parts of the universe have galaxies much closer together than where we live. So maybe other places can, but I think these old empires are using hyperspace. And the thing about hyperspace is we know the Watchers are present there. Hadrian runs into them all the time in this book in hyperspace. So how are these other empires going through hyperspace without constantly running into Watchers and not being able to expand into galaxies? And I can think of two reasons. One, they've built things like the Demiurge that are invisible to the Watchers. Or 2, the Watchers in their part of the galaxy, they either have a deal with or they're less aggressive. Now, the name of Watcher comes from the Book of Enoch. And one of the things that happens in the Book of Enoch is there's a group of Watchers who fell, but not as far as like the demons, and they want to be redeemed. And they basically send Enoch to God, to heaven, to say, please go ask God to forgive us for what we've done. So, right, which is Blind Guardian album cover, which is pretty awesome too, that specific art. So I think that there are Watchers out there that are more moderate than the ones we see. And Hadrian, by the way, he like wipes out the Cielson pantheon. He doesn't just take out Yushara and Maiudinar. He kills Iroquois and Shamhaza and all those guys with Voidmaker. When he's on Darren Tun and Ushara and Maiudinar survive, he has to deal with them later. But he like all the major gods are present there in the Cielson pantheon. He wipes them out. So I think that the Order may worship Watchers who are content with ruling the universe rather than seeing it destroyed. I think that's the moderate Watcher position. We will corrupt these creatures of the absolute, but we don't want to end everything and rebuild it. We just want to rule. We're content with ruling it, right? We've corrupted his creation enough to rule it. Now, last final schizo theory. This is the thing with Pheo. So I do think Selena's dead. I do think she's dead. Hadrian sees it and says it a couple of times. But I think what's really going on here is that Selena's pregnant. Selena's pregnant and had a child, and that is the person who's with Hadrian. Because I agree. There's the 2 cups line. There's the line where Hadrian's writing, and he's like, I can basically see her hand in front of me as I write this, which is an interesting line. But I think the biggest support for it being a child and not necessarily Selene herself is in Howling Dark. Hadrian refers to himself as having children, plural. He's talking,
Yep.
There's a line where he's talking about Bisander Lynn, and he's like, I am no more X than Bisander Lynn is my children, plural. So what we have at the end of Shadows Upon Time is a lot of evidence. There's a couple more lines, I'm sure Pheo knows them, that seem to indicate Hadrian is present at Colchis with another person. We know Selene was taken to Earth, or like that's what Hadrian mostly thinks happened to her. But this whole theory ties, and the biggest one is at one point after the Battle of Gododdin, it says she was late coming from Medica, probably because she was getting some sort of medical checkup, some sort of something revealing that she's pregnant. Now, the thing about this is Selene is Palatine. I am not sure Hadrian is Palatine. Not after he comes back in Disquiet Gods and his body doesn't seem to function like a Palatine. It, you know, a lot of us on the Discord server have said, coming from like a Christian perspective, he seems to have some sort of pre-fall body. So he may be able to breed true, and he may be able to do it in such a way that he can breed through all the genome things that are set up against Palatines. Because we know Intis are possible, right? Palatines can breed the normal way. It's just that they're normally affected by that. But even if that didn't happen, because Hadrian says he and Selene did not ever share a bed, which seems very unlikely given they spent a month together in the Tempest in Bisander Lynn's quarters.
They shared a room, confirmed.
Yes, I firmly believe that Hadrian attempted not to sleep in the same bed as Selene at the start. I think there was some
sleep,
Raggedy
so like, why
Ann
was he in there with her?
be chasing him around the room at the middle of the night. Everyone on the ship giving each other side eyes, smiles about it, hearing all the noises and chicanery going on in there. But like, you know, one of the things the Emperor says is, hey, you need to make a child right away. Selene even mentions it a couple times that like, we need to secure an heir. They're on the Demiurge, the most advanced medical ship in existence that brought a person back from the dead after 15 minutes. You know, if she got a piece of Hadrian's hair, she may have been, and she was there with Nicephorus, who had the genetic keys. They may have been able to make a child, you know, without Hadrian's consent. But that's basically what I think is going on. Now, there's an old video from Ruocchio where he says he has an idea for a story about a heist on Earth. And when this was said, we all thought Earth was a wasteland, right? And like no one lived there and it was dead. But now that we know it's full of living people, a heist seems very improbable unless you're either going there to rescue an empress or an heir. So, schizo time over.
Why else would they take Selene to Earth before killing her? Like, there's no reason why they would take her there.
Study her because she's the only pregnant Palatine, right? Like,
exactly. If she was able to have a child that was not an Intis, they'd be like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
These are crazy theories.
I like it all.